everybody's
Oh, you
ready.
can jump
We can jump into old and new business.
You guys all
Yeah.
set with?
Good, good to go.
So, October 14th minutes, basically we're all got that one, I think.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of October 15th, 2015 with just a question of Wayne's last name, that's all, misspelled, no big deal.
Couple times.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other comments or corrections?
I'll second that motion.
So, all in favor of approving the minutes with the spelling correction? All in favor?
All right.
Unanimous. And we have minutes for August 12.
Nothing else,
Oh, yeah, oh, I wasn't at that one, but it sounds like it's pretty.
Make a motion to accept those minutes also, for August 12th, 2015.
I will second that also.
Any corrections or comments on those minutes? None, all in favor? Unanimous again. And I don't think we've heard anything back from Mullen about.
This is something
Two different days, one was
No.
initial, one
different.
was secondary.
Oh.
November 2nd, October 6th.
The informal on the agenda is for Tim Fitzgerald in the private school at 239 North Franklin. I did receive the email that was handed out from the fire chief, just expressing his concerns about traffic, both vehicle and pedestrian, as well as egress.
Right.
He's not specifically saying that he's recommending against it, but he's asking us to carefully consider those issues. I think we do anyway, but
Yep.
it certainly is a concern, the traffic in those areas both.
The more I go by there, the more I look at it and say, it is a tough area.
It's a tough area, yeah.
You know, maybe we shouldn't be talking about this, but it was an informal hearing anyway, so I think we can.
Yeah.
But
It's on the agenda.
dropping off, you know, you get 30, 35 kids in one, dropping off there, you might have like, you've seen some of these Dunkin' Donuts with the cars backed out in the streets.
Right.
You might have an issue there with the queuing. Queuing, is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even though they're coming out on the side street, which is probably better, but an issue going in, could be an issue in the morning, with all traffic, you know, time morning.
That Delta Street backs up pretty good
Yeah.
sometimes.
People just stopping in the street like they do at the school, when the school gets backed up and they don't wanna go around the intersection, they just stop on the side of the road and let them
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, it's an issue we're gonna have to
It's
think
an
about
issue we're gonna
seriously.
have to think about,
Yeah,
for sure.
like I say, every time you drive by, I look,
And I think maybe we
Yeah.
need to have, we probably need some kind of a traffic study in that, at those timeframes, maybe.
you think we really do? I think
Well, I
common
mean-
sense will dictate. I mean, I think if everyone goes up and thinks about it, looks at it, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and you're either one way or the other, you know what the traffic is in the morning, in the afternoon, and, you know, whether they think it's gonna affect it or not, they think we're talking 30, 35 kids. You know, it's something I think we all have to think about. I mean, I don't think a traffic study's gonna bring anything new to our attention that isn't already there.
Yeah, the problem of the change in use is that during, you know, when it was insurance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people went in and out,
Yeah,
you didn't have.
one here, one there, one there.
Yeah.
It's,
It's
you know,
body business.
it's like a CVS or something, you know.
And they were actually parked, not just line up
Yeah,
to drop them.
Yeah,
Right.
not all at
Yeah.
once, so
Yeah.
whatever, that'll be another
Something
night
we'll
to
have to
discuss.
consider for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, we do have some time before the public hearing.
Fine.
This,
Yeah.
Conversion, oh, okay, I didn't know.
that pile too. The letter, from Ron McDonald, about the
on the mailboxes.
mailbox situation. He's basically requesting that we send a letter to all of the residents that would be involved in the change of their mode of delivery. It appears that the residents, if one resident objects, then they won't change.
That particular he's talking about, there's only one resident right now anyway, right?
I think that may be the case.
Yeah, there's only one, yeah,
So
there's only one
now's the
home in it right
time
now.
to do it.
Yeah, yeah, cause if it's done now, then as long as that person
Right.
that's there doesn't have an issue.
Right. So I don't have a problem with having, having a letter written, that basically does what he asks us to do. I think his wording is probably fine.
State in there for him to work with, Mr. Gioso to locate it. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't need to be as long as it's within,
Well, if it, yeah, as long as it meets the
Outstanding.
postal requirements,
Yeah.
I don't see that that's any problem for us. I
I
don't
mean, they would
Do,
know.
do we really know? This is Center Street Estates, that's already built. This isn't Westdale Road Extension.
Oh, he might have just put it.
Oh.
This is the road where he's got all the mailboxes in the middle of the sidewalk. What's the road name?
No, I think you might have just put the wrong name on there.
No.
I don't know.
No, this is Center Street Estates.
Yeah, because he's referencing ADA
Yeah.
regulations. And
Yeah, I know, but we got the finish down
have
there, that's
that
why we
on
had
both of
it,
them,
that's why we had to do
unfortunately.
the,
Yeah, I think this is, actually that road.
I don't know, it's down there twice. He does Center Street under the subject and under the,
Yeah.
in the body.
The other's Westdale Road.
yeah,
This is Center
Westdale.
Street Estates, different. This is where they got,
Yeah, but originally when we talked about this, it was Westdale we were talking about, right, when he first came to us?
oh, we talked about he was gonna move all these mailboxes to the curbside where they should be, because right now they're in the middle of a sidewalk and you can't get people to buy them. That's why it's the ADA thing, is, either gonna move them to the edge and put them sideways, or you're gonna put a delivery at the end. Those are the alternatives. We can clarify it.
I was
but
gonna
that's
say, we
fine.
we might wanna clarify that.
Yeah,
Cause I know when we originally brought it up, we were originally talking about Westdale,
yeah.
cause the sidewalk was
Yeah,
messed up on
no,
both
I
sides.
brought this up several times with the mailboxes.
Yeah,
On Center
I-
Street?
Off of Center Street, that's road,
Off of Center Street.
You talking Worcester Place? Or
No.
further down?
no, Worcester's off of Westdale. It's right off of, Center, just past the
Just past the
the
pond.
pond.
The
One
first
of the
right.
first, one of the first rights.
The first
The
right is
first
Worcester
right.
Place.
Well, Worcester, that ties back into another new street now,
Okay.
doesn't it?
Well, it goes into like Isabel, not Isabel, but it goes into,
Roberts and that.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's like three streets, Isabel,
yeah.
Evelyn,
Yeah, is there another street?
And there's
Worcester?
another
Worcester
street
doesn't
back there.
sound right, but it might be. I thought Worcester came down from Center to Roberts.
I wonder if,
Not from Center, from Westdale, the old Westdale. I
Right.
thought Worcester come down parallel to Center. I may be wrong, but whatever.
we should probably contact Ron and ask him for the addresses.
Yeah, if we had a town map.
but
it'd
that,
tell
that
you right
first,
away.
if you pass upon the first street on the right, that's Worcester
That's
Worcester.
Worcester.
Place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you contact Ron and just tell him that, we'd be, you know, that we'll do this, but we'd like to know exactly what addresses that are affected? He should have all of that, I assume.
I wonder if we should propose the same thing on Westdale, rather
Why?
than trying to smash mailboxes into asphalt sidewalks. They're not gonna be right. They're gonna be in the middle of, road.
Probably true.
Yeah.
They have to come up with a location for him.
Again, have probably
Well, would you have it in the middle or
Ron
would
meet
you have
him
it
up
at the end?
there.
Middle of the ends.
But you have to see where, I mean, it
Yeah,
might end up on someone's
It would
property.
end up, yeah, he may actually have to cut a piece out of, but that would affect frontage and everything.
I guess he can't put it in the grass strip, can he?
No.
Well, you can, the grass strip on the other side.
Yeah.
On the other
Not
side.
be on the front side.
Yeah.
I don't know, just a thought.
Well, that one I think we can talk about this one here, we need to respond, so if you could get the
Right.
addresses,
Yep.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
And where are we on, the other one, with Mr. Gioso? Is he,
He was still dealing with DEP or someone about the,
Or the new one,
yeah,
Dalton extension or
Mm.
Dalton?
yeah,
Place, or-
was it Loop of the Water or something else he was dealing with?
Yeah,
yeah.
With them?
But we're just waiting for him to come back, right?
Yeah,
There's
I guess
nothing that we have to do.
No.
Yeah, don't think so, no.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, that's not one, all right. We still have 10 minutes.
So, yeah, what would be the, other than sidewalks, we don't want non-compliant sidewalks.
No.
But are they on our shoulders right now? I mean, is this,
He
that's,
put them in wrong.
okay.
yeah, there's.
So like if I lived there, why would I be like, yeah, this sounds great, I want my mail?
Well, they're gonna be moved, one way or the other.
Yeah,
Because basically they're illegal.
yeah, and that, I can't see why any resident would want,
Well, I think
Like-
maybe we'll have to tell them they're going to be moved.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
One
but-
One way or the other,
They'll
so-
either be moved,
Yeah.
and I have a feeling that at least one of the residents is probably gonna say, I like my mailbox in front of my house. and-
Well, that's, you know.
And not,
Wait. Okay, then you want central, we have to move them anyhow,
they gotta be
Yeah, I
moved
mean,
anyway.
Yeah,
so,
whether we just move the mailboxes or put in a central location, that's the question, I think.
And the fact that people are getting curbside delivery already, I guess,
It-
triggers
yeah.
the post office to be required to come up with a waiver, and their conditions of waivers is that everybody agrees. I didn't know that, but that's what the letter says. So I guess, the way he's presenting it is probably the way we need to do it, but we'll have to think about the language a little bit, because we'll have to tell them that they are gonna be moved somehow.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how, if they do put them in parallel to the road, is there still gonna be enough room on the sidewalk?
I haven't been down there in a while. I know there would
You
still
may have
be
to
issues.
actually add width to the sidewalk at every mailbox.
Well, well, if that's the case, no, we'll have to put a central.
But if the post office won't move them, won't do that. It sounds to me like his letter is saying that unless all the residences agree to the central.
Well, then we move the mailbox to the other side of the sidewalk on the grass, and, and let the post office deal with it, because we can't make him make larger sidewalks, because we did approve a plan.
But they're in the wrong place.
No, we can make him move the mailboxes.
Yeah.
But we can't really make him widen the sidewalks. And we can move the mailboxes because it was done improperly, so,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if it's done wrong, it's done wrong. But, and I'm not sure what the ADA requires, is
I'm
it
not
3
sure.
feet, Mike, or do you know?
I think it's 4 feet, 3 feet is narrowest, so like,
Yeah, 3 feet.
if it was 3 feet, as you're passing an obstruction,
Yeah, no
Yeah.
less than 3 feet.
that'd be
is-
fine.
So we should be fine.
So a 4-foot sidewalk with mailbox parallel to the
Yeah,
road
yeah.
would probably be okay anyway.
I think.
If it was
The
right
other
up-
thing
if it
too
was
is that
right up
every
on the
so
curb.
often you need to have, I don't know about this, you'd have to have a 5-foot turnaround area. Every so often, I think that,
I wonder if-
Well, that'd be like a driveway or whatever.
Driveways?
Anyway, it'd be.
I don't know. I'm speculating, I'm not certain
Yeah.
about that one.
Well, I mean, I think everything that's there is, I don't know how old it is, but somewhat pre-existing, so was approved, and I don't know if they can make us change anything, as long as we can get that 3-foot minimum, and hopefully get a little more. I don't know if there's a 4 or 5-foot sidewalks down here, but whatever.
But even if they're
I
4,
mean, you know,
that'll be okay.
if we can get something that's acceptable, let's just do it. Because like you say, I don't think people are gonna want to start walking
I don't think-
to
I
a
mean,
central
I'm-
mailbox.
I'm willing
After
to send a
living there for
letter.
15 or 20 years, you know?
Yeah, I'm willing to send a letter,
Yeah.
but I think the reality is somebody's gonna object, and,
Well, we need to get the accurate location first before we get too deep
Yeah,
into this.
yeah.
Mm.
So we'll
Let's
get the
just-
addresses and we'll,
Yeah.
the next meeting, we can
Yeah,
take it up and
sure.
hopefully come up with a real letter. Okay, should we,
Stay here.
talk-
We are here.
yeah, we can't open in front of 5 minutes,
They
so
could
for
come
the,
in and get set up probably anyway, but whatever.
huh?
They could come in and get set up,
Yeah.
but,
Should we ask how long the Boy Scouts are, I'm just wondering what you're looking to do?
Oh, we set it up.
observing.
You're just observing.
Oh, all right.
Okay, that's allowable. You could have watched us on TV, but that's okay.
And they're done now, yeah?
You wanna just bring them in?
Yeah,
By the time they
we
come
might as
in,
well let them
it's
set
gonna
up
be-
their stands and stuff. You just let them know that.
Yeah, I did. I'm coming.
They're technically not gonna open until about 7:30, but you can set up your.
Oh, great,
your-
thank you.
We open, not open.
Any more refreshments?
Yeah, have a cookie.
Have a cookie.
Help yourself.
Some sugar.
Casey's a late night.
They're up for grabs if anybody wants a cookie.
Yeah. Boy Scouts like cookies, don't they?
Started
You guys
pretty
want a
good.
cookie?
That's the Girl Scouts.
Oh.
Girl Scouts
Oh,
sell.
they're brownies, come on
Boy-
now.
Boy Scouts eat them, Girl Scouts sell them.
Okay. So, Sean says it's. John, I'm assuming they've seen your report or not?
What's that?
Do you know if they've seen your report? Have you discussed it with them or?
No, I don't.
No, okay.
I don't think there's anything,
I don't either, but.
I did get a copy of it.
You did get a
Yes,
copy.
I only
Okay.
This
sent it
afternoon, yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, but I sent it today, this afternoon.
Thank you.
I take one of these from you.
No, you might have.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I get two of them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Want mine?
What?
Want mine too?
I get yours too?
I said, do you want mine too?
No, kids, I don't.
Sure.
Where'd you get that nice map? Where'd you get that nice map?
You handed them up, they were on the table. So is it too?
I got one left. You want them back?
No, it's all right. I'll take this. It's-
We got them on.
He took the table. I don't know.
I was just trying to figure out.
Totally different. Well, I know these are talking about, that's why I was wondering, it's not really highlighted, like those are both. So if it's up to there, that's like 21 inch deep, 18 inch deep, 18 inch planted. 21 inch planted. Yeah, that's it.
Maybe it's just, maybe those were original, and maybe these are added to the bold ones from the last one.
Yeah.
We'll find out sure
Yeah.
That was it.
Everything.
Yep.
Which is good, everything, but.
All right, since it's 7:30, we will now reopen the public hearing on 315 Pine Street. Property owner N-Star Electric, the applicant Bell Atlantic Mobile of Massachusetts Corporation, doing business as Verizon Wireless, and the special permit and site plan review regarding added height to the cell tower on Pine Street. And I will turn the floor over to you and let you proceed with the list of requested waivers, and if you would like to comment on our engineer's comments as you go through that.
Well, first of all, good evening. Once again, my name is Daniel Plasnik. I'm the attorney representing Verizon Wireless. As has already been read into the record, and as this board is aware, this is a continuation from a previous meeting that we had last month. At that last meeting, the board, we had gone over, I think, a good deal of the project. We had looked at the plans, the design, the coverage maps, photo sims, and other supporting documentation that Verizon Wireless provided in support of its application for special permit and site plan review. At that particular meeting, this board asked us to go back and take a look at a few additional items and supplement some of our materials. So what we have done in the interim is to provide, at the request of the board, a revised set of plans. That was one of the items that we were asked to look at. Primarily, I think it was because the board felt that we should do a rev update, so we did include that. In addition, we included the PLS stamp on the plans. And it was discussed at the meeting as well last week, or not last week, but last month, that it would be helpful if we actually enclose the cable tray with fencing as well. So that's a feature that's been added to the plans. And then there was some discussion about screening of the shelter area. So what Verizon Wireless has proposed to do was, and after consultation with N-Star, to install some arborvitae plantings along the solid wood fence between the nearest abutter and Verizon Wireless's equipment shelters. So those are the three essential changes to the plans that were reviewed last month. And I believe, based upon the comments from the town consultant, they were satisfied that we had addressed his comment in regards to the PLS stamp. So that was one item that we had been asked to provide, and I believe we did. And then in addition, the board asked and requested that we go back and take another look at our waivers. In our initial filing, we had included a number of waivers for this board's consideration. And we were asked to provide a little more detail concerning the basis for those waivers. So on October 27th, I did make a supplemental filing. I called it the amendment to the requested waiver statement. I hope that each one of the board members has a copy. I don't know if you want to go through each one of the waiver requests, or if you're comfortable with the information, or if you had any particular questions.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't want you to have to reread everything that's in here, but if you could just walk through and just maybe in a sentence or two say what you see the gist of each waiver doing for you.
Well, in your bylaw, there's a list of criteria. The board's given broad authority under your bylaw to waive each one. But there were some terms that were utilized in there where it was, the term tower was used. It wasn't clear to me, given that there's already an existing transmission structure, and all Verizon Wireless is proposing to do is install a power mount that will be, will extend 10 feet above the existing transmission structure, but it's necessary to attach it to actually support it. So arguably, we're not installing a tower, we're installing a co-location on the existing transmission structure. I mean, as we had already pointed out, Metro PCS is already located on this tower, and then I guess in this line of transmission towers, as you go down, there are other wireless service providers. I believe Sprint is located on one, and then there's actually another Power Mount, a few transmission towers down. So what Verizon Wireless is proposing to do, I think, is very consistent with what this board has reviewed and approved by special permit with site plan review waiver. But to the extent that waivers are necessary, I had tried to outline how we comply, I guess, or how we'll be able to comply with the requirements of the bylaw, which really does encourage co-location on non-residential structures and asks that any applicant avoid constructing new towers. So I think the basis of each of the waivers requests is directly impacted and directly relates to that requirement and that preference from the bylaw. So what I've tried to do is just give sort of a detailed description for each item that we requested a waiver.
But it's still a tower, because you're going higher than the existing tower. So it's from the ground, in a few feet into the ground, and it goes all the way up, and it's even higher than the existing tower. So how can you say it's not a?
Well, as I said, I mean, we've requested waivers for those requirements, but I've also presented in here, based upon the FCC definition of a tower. A tower is defined as any structure built for the sole or primary purpose of supporting any commissioned, licensed, or authorized antennas and their associated facilities. There's already an existing transmission structure located on here 130 feet. What Verizon Wireless is proposing to do is attach to that in order to satisfy its coverage objectives, and because Metro PCS is already installed on this transmission tower, it's necessary to extend the height. This can only be accomplished by going above the existing transmission structure. So it's no different than if you co-locate antennas on a building. You're extending above the rooftop of the building, you're using mounts to do that, but you're not installing a tower, you're installing a co-location on a transmission structure.
So because there's another company on that tower, that's why you have to get more height, correct?
Not exclusively, no. I mean, Verizon Wireless's needs are based upon its
So
coverage.
why do you need that extra height then?
Based upon the information, and if we do want to skip ahead, we did include as well a supplemental RF report where we go through in some detail why it's necessary to install at this particular height and location to satisfy the coverage objectives. So in each instance, what we've tried to illustrate is the fact that the minimum height necessary to install the 12 antennas in a triangular mount so we can get the 360 degrees of service. It's necessary to install above the structure in the manner that's proposed, which, as I said, is very similar to an existing facility on another transmission structure in this same line of transmission structures down by Damon Avenue that this board had already previously approved and allowed, in addition to the Metro PCS. And I think T-Mobile and Sprint are located within these same 3 or 4 transmission structures. So then in addition, the board had asked us about taking noise measurements at the property line. So we provided a supplemental environmental sound assessment dated October 22nd, where it was modeled not only from the nearest residential structure, but also the property line, and then 3 additional residential structures in the area. And we were also asked, even though this is just an emergency backup generator that will only be operated for testing during the daytime, and if there's a power disruption, we were asked to model it at night as if it were operating with the HVAC units at the same time. And with all of that taking place, we still were able to more than comply with the DEP standards at the property line. We went Verizon Wireless, and what we illustrate in the study is that we've gone through great measures to mitigate the noise, including enclosing it by an 8-foot high solid stockade fence, installing cowling silencers over the air intake and exhaust, and also installing a sound absorption barrier inside the fencing. So there's a photograph on page 9 of that supplemental study that shows some of the mitigation features based upon installations at other locations.
And actually, the trees that you're proposing at this point should have some mitigating effect on that too, I would think.
Yes, I mean.
I mean, they're not there now, so,
No.
you know, but when, if those are put in, those should help even make these numbers a little lower.
I believe that wasn't necessary to factor into this study,
No.
and specifically wasn't,
No, it wasn't.
based upon all the other mitigation measures that's already been undertaken. So those were the action items, if you will, that I had on my list. In addition, and I don't know if this board received a copy or not, but I did meet with the Conservation Commission at their regularly scheduled meeting last Monday, just to review the wetlands issue. We did have a wetland scientist who went out to the site, he walked the site, he prepared a letter, which I can give to the board, but I don't know if the Conservation Commission, I think, is gonna issue a letter of
Yeah,
non-jurisdiction.
there is a letter in the,
Okay, so you have that.
Yeah.
So we did go out and to address that particular issue as well. And that was included in my waiver statement. Although I think I got the date wrong.
Sean, reading your report, it looked like the only thing was that you had in there that was that the board would have to accept the sound numbers.
Right.
Basically, but everything else from your review of everything else looks like it meets everything at this stage.
Yeah, and the sound, I mean, it's an increase, but it's, you can look in the chart, it's like
Yeah.
between a refrigerator to a dishwasher in the next room, so it's not a whole lot.
Not much.
And the only other thing was the language that it says you, if you weren't satisfied with one of those things, that there's language in there that says you must approve. So that's
Right.
something you just have to
And
take
I
if
read
you're
that, and
so
I think
inclined.
hopefully we won't get
Right.
to that point.
I would think that you'd wanna at least have our town attorney look at that, one portion of it.
Well, if we got to the point where we were at, you know, if we were asking for something that they didn't want to do, or if we were going to reject it,
Yeah,
Then
I just
I
think
think
that
they'll-
additional height on this is, have you seen the tower? Physically gone down there and seen it?
Yeah.
And you're gonna add an additional height on that? And how far away from that property line?
it's relatively close.
20
So-
plus, 20 plus
20,
feet.
22 feet, I'm not sure what the actual scale is, these aren't really to
It's
scale.
called out, I think.
Yeah.
What's the distance on it?
26 to the property line. And 80 to the, or 70 to the house.
Okay.
They do like a before and after rendering too, in the application. You know, you guys saw that.
No.
It's, so that's the before, and the next page is what it would be after. So it's not up.
That's what it is now, next page. I mean, you really don't get, on a picture like that, you don't really get the actual height on that.
Well, yeah, from far away, you're gonna see more than you're gonna see it up close, because up close, you're not usually looking up straight unless you're looking at the sky or birds,
Yeah.
you know?
And all of those photo stems were taken and scaled from the drawing, so they're an accurate representation of what it will look like from those perspectives.
A couple pages before that, I think it shows where they took them from, so. There was a map with, like, the angles, correct? Yeah, the photo
Is it on
location
the
map.
street, on Pine Street?
Yeah, there's a
There's
couple
the-
of circles on the
Yeah.
map that show where the pictures are
Yeah.
taken.
Oh, yeah.
The difference.
Yeah,
the street and get the property.
There's a number of them, different, from different places.
Four.
So this is still a raise
Mhm.
here. And where's this from? This is from down the street quite a ways, because there's a turn over there.
Yeah, that's the driveway, heading into the,
Yeah.
which is basically that, that's just before you get that side street, because that's heavy growth on there, you wouldn't see that from another 10 feet down the road. That's all heavy on that side.
We did receive a letter from the abutter. And they had a few questions, some of them that I can answer, but some of them I'm not sure I
Let
can.
me see what
They asked about the wetlands issue, and I think that is something that you've dealt with the Conservation Commission.
this is like.
They're asking about the range of the cell towers, but I think that's pretty much covered in your coverage map. But, I mean, that would be the range, that's,
Yeah.
Which, for the most part, it's not so much about Holbrook, it's all about Braintree. So,
it extends probably a bigger
It's-
percentage in Braintree than
right,
Holbrook.
so we're being negatively affected, the town of Holbrook, for something like this. And it's causing our taxpayers a headache.
They were asking if the cell tower could be moved further from the residential area, but I think that would require a whole new tower somewhere. 'Cause I think we talked about last time that the other electric towers weren't suitable. The ones that went from Pine Street towards North Franklin Street were not the right type of tower and wouldn't suit your purpose.
That's in that area,
Yep.
but there are more cell towers further away also that would still hit the range of Braintree, that's not in Holbrook.
You mean, more
Down off
Power.
of, down out off of Cannon Road in Braintree. In back there are more cell towers that would cover what they're looking to cover.
We don't know that. These guys have spent tens of thousands of dollars on
We're not
engineering
trying to
and
cover,
stuff.
we're trying to cover areas in Holbrook, I mean, we
So-
detailed that quite
so-
explicitly in our
but-
affidavit
but
and
you-
our RF report.
But if you did find a location in that Cannon area, that would, the height of that would still hit most of, or if not all of the Holbrook areas. I mean, you're not that far away from, and again, that's still in the woods. Do you know where Cannon Road is?
I've looked at the area throughout, I mean, it's heavily wooded up there, it's not even accessible, it's in wetlands.
Yeah.
And Verizon Wireless, when they issued this coverage ring, the purpose was to cover in those areas of Holbrook as detailed in the affidavit. The fact that there is coverage extending up into Braintree isn't relevant really to what Verizon Wireless is trying to accomplish.
I mean, I think with all of the cutting down of shrubs, there's still access back in those areas.
Once again, I mean, we've detailed our coverage objectives in our coverage maps and our RF reports, and we've certified to you what we're trying to accomplish.
I think
Of course,
this is
there's always
the,
gonna be coverage that might go into an additional townlet.
yeah.
That isn't even necessarily something that should be considered. It's really whether or not Verizon Wireless is satisfying the standards under the Telecommunications Act and the siting of this facility, and they do.
I just think that maybe our town attorney needs to take a peek at this also. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have them look at that.
To have
Our attorneys look at.
look at the requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do that. Going through her letter, again, she was asking whether it was gonna change the height of the high-tension wires themselves, and it's not. They're not part of it at all. The sound studies she asked about, we now have the updated sound study. We do have indication of what it will look like. She asked if Verizon had met with the abutters to explain the proposed location, but I think part of the purpose of the public hearing is for that to be, to happen. I don't know the answer specifically. I don't know whether Verizon has talked to any of the abutters individually. Is that, do you know whether they did or not?
No. We would typically meet, with the board and to know this meeting is the best opportunity we feel for a full public disclosure.
And, just in general, she would like it further from her house. She was talking about the vegetation and how they had, that they had full screening from the trees and vegetation that was there, and now it's not. At least the revised plan, the revised proposal does add some visual barrier. Basically, as I understand it, you've submitted everything you want to submit. I think, do we have anything else that we want from the applicant?
I don't think so.
I mean, that's,
I guess, well,
yeah.
I don't know about the other towers in town that have been approved. I mean, I did look here, and I don't know which one is at the base of it already, Sprint?
Metro PCS.
Metro.
Metro PCS, which obviously it's low and they haven't added any more height, but, so the proposed structure that you're gonna co-locate, what would future antennas, well, first of all, so this is gonna, Verizon's gonna own that pole that you're gonna insert,
I'm not certain.
and then would
In a
it
lot of
be,
cases, those Metro PCS, doesn't Instar get left or Instar?
I mean, you own your installation, so yeah, it's you own your whole. Yeah.
I know in some locations, Instar's, they've left it there.
Yeah, I mean, you can look further on the lease, like exactly who's gonna. I mean, we definitely own our shelter and ground equipment as far as the ownership, because it is attached to the high tension lines. I can look further into the lease. So it's a big master
So-
lease we have. So
I mean, I guess my question is, if another provider came in and said, we wanna add some antennas onto that, do they come to Verizon, or is it not?
no.
No, if they wanted to add to the transmission
They'll go to
structure,
Instar.
that would go to Instar.
So
There is
yeah,
no
that-
space
that
on the
would- that
power.
would
No, I guess what I'm saying is the pole that you're putting in, it has some antennas at the top. You own that pole, so you own the rights to that pole, and nobody else can add antennas to your pole.
Well, they wouldn't be able to in any event. It's just
Looks
so.
like there wouldn't be any room on it.
so
It would
low
have to go
above the
higher
top.
to add more antennas.
I mean, they could perhaps, depending on what the coverage requirements are, try to add to the transmission structure itself. But the power mount itself isn't designed for multiple carriers.
So Verizon actually is gonna own the pole.
We're installing it, yes.
I wouldn't say we're gonna own the pole. I mean, I can probably look at the lease, but
Yeah.
I know if somebody else would go. I mean,
But I
it's technicality, but I'm pretty sure nobody can attach to that pole without N-Star Emerson's.
All right, so I mean, I think we would wanna know, pretty sure we'd wanna know definitely, like you're saying, Verizon does not own the pole, they're gonna install it, but they don't own it, and then you're pretty sure, but I think we'd wanna be sure about future improvements or attachments to that pole, because we have, at the other pole,
No one could attach anything to it without permission of N-Star, because it's their transmission station. I'm sure what these guys are putting up will only hold their equipment, it's not strong enough to hold any other. And it's an attachment, that's all, it's a bracket, but it goes to the ground to take up the
The
wires.
pole is somewhat of a conduit,
It's not a
right? Not
bracket, it's a
necessarily
foundation.
structure.
I understand, Paul, but they need, but the wires are going up through there.
Yeah.
That's one of the
To
reasons
the
they have that.
degree, yes.
Yeah.
the reason I'm asking,
Verizon doesn't have any sublease rights, if that's what you're asking. We have no authority to sublease any space to anyone else.
the reason why I'm asking is because the other pole you have, and I guess maybe it's all been by Verizon, or it's somewhere in here, the other pole you have, and it's come before us a few different times, to add more,
Existing, to the existing structures.
That's probably a telecom.
And a lot of it
That's
might
a
just be
tower.
replacing equipment.
Yeah,
Oh, that was
they
to
were
change the
changing, they were
antenna.
upgrading
They changed
from
the
one
array.
type of
Yeah.
Right.
antenna to another type of antenna.
And in all fairness, it's out in the back, but,
Yeah.
you know, the existing, and then they brought in the new, and the new was slightly larger.
Right.
I guess what I'm getting at is, you know,
Well,
if I could finish,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. I'm sorry, Mike.
you know, we have this here today, and then it's like, okay, yep, fine. And then, you know, is there gonna be a spire proposed to be added to the top of that pole at some point? You know, where does it end? We know it doesn't end here. We know there's gonna be coming back and saying, well, can we do this now? Can we do that now? I just want us to all be thinking about the fact that
Yeah.
where does it end, and who does control the future of this? And where, you know, I appreciate the fact that you did other studies, but I mean, across the road from there to the west, there's a pole that's several other towers up, removed from the road. Now, I don't know who owns that tower, but it's certainly much more removed so that it's not, you know, it's not so close to a house, it's not even so close to the road that you would really look at that as being a, you know, have a negative visual impact.
Between, you're talking about one between Pine Street and Damon Ave.
Yeah, I think that would be correct. It's probably like Wayne, probably like, you know,
Right.
in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, we did look after the board, and I mean, that's part of our RF report.
I saw that.
We looked at each of those 3 additional structures between Pine and Damon. And as noted, the one that we call Tower 45, that one is located really in wetlands. It's not accessible, it's not usable.
Yep.
The Tower 46
I know that one.
already has a carrier attached, and it's a substantially lower elevation, and you're getting further and further away from Pine Street and the coverage objectives. And then number 47, which I guess is actually on the other side, 37, that's the one that already has a power mount installed, and is way too far away from Verizon Wireless, this coverage objective, the elevation.
So, this is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
The one is like here.
No,
The
Yeah.
existing one is like here.
no, the existing one is
I
this.
don't know if this is helpful or not.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
well, so,
It's a bit better.
So this is the proposed.
These
Right.
These were the others.
This is the one that's in the wetlands.
Yep.
But that has something on it.
there's already one up there.
No, I don't
Yes,
believe so.
there is.
No, I don't know if that's right. But that's definitely in the wetlands. I have certification from the,
Yeah, but they have to build a structure too. That one might not have a structure associated with it.
Probably doesn't.
Um,
To build in the wetlands back there would be, I don't know that you could do that. I'm kind of
Well,
familiar with
that's
that.
not really our concern, the wetlands.
So,
Well-
but this is looking that way,
Mhm.
and that looks like it's co-located on that tower right
Well,
there.
that's behind. That's not this one. That's further down. That's this one.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And there is someone co-located. We think that's Sprint.
On 2. On all 2.
then,
Yeah.
then where, well, where's alt one in this picture then?
It must be these two. Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
And there are 2 there, so it's these 2. And then behind
And
that
the road
is
must be
two.
between them.
No,
Is
the
that true?
road's
No,
right,
the road is
road's right
after that.
here.
That's
This is,
right.
this is that, those 2, right here.
Yep.
And
Oh, okay.
this, behind that is that one.
You mean the existing one that belongs to somebody else?
Yes, that's
Are-
behind that.
Actually, no. So 1, 2, 3. There are 3 back, but then the second, I guess I'm just looking at,
Yeah, I'm fairly confident these 2 towers are those 2 towers.
okay.
And then
And-
those 2 towers are these 2
And
towers.
the other problem too is the type of tower. See how this is, I did it
Yeah, that's
again.
fine.
How it's like different, it's a different tower. You
Yep.
can't put, I don't think you can put a pole up in the middle of that kind.
Oh, that one right there has a power pole through it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this one down here.
That's that one down there. Okay.
That
But
far
already,
away? Really?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if I'm,
But even that one down there, there's really no residence down there that's gonna
I
affect it.
think
but
there's,
no,
That's
that's,
a
there's
gas
a swimming
station.
pool right next to this one. There's a
No,
swimming pool
that's
right
across
next to
the
that
street.
one.
This is
so-
Damon Ave. So this goes across the street. This is
So-
North Franklin
North
Street.
Franklin.
And then that's the tower.
This is the gas station.
That's the gas station.
This is the residence here. That's, Stoke Road, right?
So here's a further aerial photograph that I took, okay? So this is This is the one we were talking about, that's the first one, there's a swimming
Yep.
pool right there.
Yep.
Here's the second one, and they're all right
You're
here.
backing right up to the ones on Dave.
It's further away.
Well, that's in the wetlands, though.
Yeah, I know,
You
that
can
is
even
wet.
see
up.
the way right here.
I grew up.
But there's
with
a
it.
tower in
Spent
there,
a
though,
lot
right?
of time back in there.
Well,
I know
that's-
that. Well, they put
That's
those
M
towers
star.
up, a long time ago, probably before.
And we did have our wetland scientist take a look at that specific structure for wetlands concerns, and he included in this.
Well, again, my concern is that, where does it go from here? And what's it gonna be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and what
Well, I
else gets
mean,
added to the pole, and,
If they wanted to add something else, they'd have to come back.
yeah, but
I
at
know,
that point in
I
time,
know.
what are you gonna do, say no?
Well,
No, you can't add that 10-foot spire to the top? No, you can't add that other larger antenna off to the side?
They're already, stated earlier, they're maxed out with the capacity, it can barely carry what they're putting up there now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spire, not like a big thing, but just, they get added onto. That's what happens.
I think we have to vote on what was presented to us, and that's it.
I think it's fair to ask what
Oh.
the future holds,
oh, it's fixed.
or what's the future potentially hold.
Oh, I
So that we don't-
understand, but this
so
is
that-
what they presented.
But they
you know.
still have to come back before us, if it's future.
I mean, this is Verizon Wireless's full 12-panel array that's necessary at this particular time. I can't predict what's going to happen in the future.
Sure.
'Cause if I were, I would be rich and doing something else.
You would be messing around with this tonight.
But this is what we're proposing. I think it's consistent with what the board's already approved. I mean, you've already pointed out the one down on Damon Ave is the exact type of structure. So it's a little mystifying to me why Verizon Wireless's proposal is being scrutinized so much.
So much more than which one? This one? Here?
Many of them,
The one that you had the
actually, I
picture
mean,
of with the.
Yeah, but that's behind the house by a good distance.
Yeah.
Oh, it is further away?
Would I say it's 500 feet away from the structure? I don't know about that, but it's certainly
none
much
of these
further
are
away.
500 feet away from any structure. And I question what even is the land use reasoning to require 500 feet from
All right, but yeah.
structure.
500 feet is required. You can question it all you want, that's what is required. We have a tower there, as you said the last time, it's an eyesore already. Why not, what's the difference if we make it a little worse? Because where does it end? That's why. So, the tower is where it is. Why do we want to make it any worse?
Well, first of all, I would argue that what the bylaw allows is for co-location on non-residential structures, dissuades wireless service providers from installing new towers. The board has already approved these types of facilities all up and down this whole transmission line. So clearly, the board has viewed these as an acceptable location for wireless telecommunications facilities in the past. All Verizon Wireless is proposing to do is exactly what all the other wireless service providers have already been authorized by special permit with site plan review from this board.
Fair enough. I guess I don't know each location and how it is in relation to the road and somebody's house and everything else. So, sure, the board has approved it. I just
Well, we
don't know,
that
I just don't know if I could
Metro PCS
finish.
is on this one.
If I could finish, I don't know as though the impact to the abutters at those other locations would be as much as it would be at this location. And as far as the PCS, the impact of the PCS, I would say, is much less than what is being proposed by Verizon. However, that impact is really, I don't think it's not in any kind of waiver, it's just a low thing, it's near the ground, and it's got a fence around it, and it's,
But that requires a waiver too, because
Oh, it certainly
clearly that's within the distance minimum too. I mean,
yes, but, again, whether you want to call it a tower or not, the height is increasing. It is increasing, whether you want to call it a tower or structure, whatever you want to call it, what you're adding to the equation here, it increases the overall height. Whereas, I think what PCS did not do that.
no, not on the kind of tower we're talking about, no.
Correct.
It did on whoever has this one down here, it did, but not,
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I just don't, again, not knowing
No.
each of these sites
Yeah.
as well, I'm
This one, I
guessing
know,
that.
I know this is wetlands, I know that.
All right, I'm guessing that the impact to the abutters is not as much as it's going to be at this particular location.
But I think I'm hearing that these don't work from a coverage point of view. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, as we detailed in our affidavit and the RF engineers here, they don't satisfy the coverage objectives to the extent that this
This one does.
proposal will, just because of the elevation as you go and you get further away. Even if you were able to install a power mount at this same height, there would be a loss of coverage and capacity to the targeted areas.
How much of a loss?
Well, I would have to, in the,
I mean, it's a
I guess
reasonable-
one
RF
of the
engineers,
possibilities
if you want.
could, you know, if it really would be less impact visually, it might have to be not 10 feet higher, but 20 feet higher, or something like that, to get the same coverage. And I don't know whether that's an improvement,
Or if the pole structure, could-
If
if the
possible.
existing tower structure could take it, that's
Yeah.
kind of the
I think
discussion
that's
the last
another,
time.
that's another issue, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is what they're asking for, and we're gonna respond to that, I think. And I think what you're saying is that there's federal court decisions that, in your opinion, we have to approve this. So if we wanted to do something different, we're gonna have to go to town council and have town council review.
Well, I think review by town council, and as Sean pointed out, you know, you say you must do this, but I think we'd like to understand our,
Yeah.
you know, and a third party. I guess the other question I would ask, where you show the alternate locations, and they're, you know, with lower elevation or one thing or another. What about, just, again, trying to understand the whole picture here, what about other things where you do a tower and then you add the, I don't know what the proper name for them is, but you add those little boosters that go out like along, like you would add them along a roadway or whatever, where you need the coverage. I can't think of the technical name of them, but I know they do exist.
I'm sorry, you were suggesting we construct a new tower somewhere?
No,
No.
no, I'm saying that if you have a tower, any tower, and it doesn't quite get what you want,
Kinda like an amplifier.
Like a repeater or
yeah,
something.
yeah, isn't there another technology out there that helps to,
Well, Dan can talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the repeater wouldn't give you the added capacity that we're targeting, because you're essentially still utilizing the exact same channel and spectrum, just amplifying it to cover additional areas. Now, there's other items such as small cells and stuff, which might be what you're talking about, but those aren't a substitute for a macro site. That's what this is a macro cell site. They're necessary for added capacity in a more localized area, say it's right on top of a plaza or an office building near a school.
so on, yeah, I mean, if you wouldn't mind, the difference between capacity and coverage. I mean, you can have a pole, and if it's next to a football stadium, that's great that there's a tall pole there, but it could be maxed out because everybody could be on their phone, is that correct? It might, you might have maxed that out and you've only gone about like 500 feet away, and it could be maxed out just because during a game, everybody's on their phone.
And that's where you would end up using those small cells type of solutions, is to cover just the stadium itself. That way the macro site can support the needs of the community.
Got it. But because this is, I guess, needs to reach out over a less populated, larger area,
Yeah,
you need the macro.
absolutely. And we're trying to maximize the coverage footprint from this site, which is one of the reasons why we really need the elevation on Pine Street right there. And I know you guys were commenting on some of the incremental coverage will be throughout Braintree as well. But the site is needed to provide capacity relief to areas of Holbrook, more specifically off the existing Holbrook site. So not only will the users within the, or close nearby this proposed facility benefit, users all throughout Holbrook will benefit as well, because that facility will have more resources available for the users closer to them. Capacity is one of the bigger issues these days. And we not only need to design for current needs and network resources, we also need to design for the future and anticipated needs.
So in your anticipated needs, this, looking some distance ahead, you don't think any changes would be necessary for increase capacity or anything?
Well, we can only speak for Verizon.
I understand.
There's
No.
currently only 4 main service providers. We have
Yeah.
AT&T, who's already on a site. Verizon, we're proposing this tower. Then T-Mobile, which now owns Metro, so they're already there. And Sprint, who we believe is on that alternate too. Over the lifetime of the site, Verizon might swap out the antennas for additional, more modern, like-sized ones.
But
Well-
not increase the height or anything like that to do that?
No.
That would be similar to what we had to do last time when they wanted to change, I think, when they were going a different kind of antennas that was slightly
Yeah,
larger.
those
That's what
flat,
we
those
had to
flat
go through.
panel ones.
I mean, if it would come to, I mean, certainly this decision of the board would be conditioned upon the plans we presented, so all that would be approved is what's being presented to this board. If we were going to come back to try and increase the height, that would have to be a new proposal.
In the 12 antennas per sector that Verizon owns, that gives you 4 antennas per sector, or 12 antennas on the site, sorry. Verizon currently holds spectrum across 4 different frequency bands that allows them to utilize all their spectrum. So we're also designing for worst case that we can predict, based off of what we currently have to work with.
Anything else? I'm just thinking if we want to ask, if there's anything we're going to want to ask them to bring to us that we don't have, then we can't close the public hearing. We have to ask for it. If there isn't, then we could close the
Well,
public
we say
hearing.
we want our third party to look at things too.
Have the attorney, oh, yeah,
Yes,
we
but
can
are
do
there any
that.
other questions we
Oh.
have for anybody?
Yeah, in other words, we can only accept information until the public hearing is closed. Then we evaluate it, discuss it, have our lawyer look at it, whatever we need to do before we vote. But I'm just saying, is there anything that we need from the applicant that we don't have that we're gonna ask him to provide? If there is nothing, should we consider closing the public hearing and getting into, I think at that point, we probably will submit a question to the town council, whether or not the opinion of the attorney is correct, that we have little authority to do anything other than accept it, or not. And then we can, and then we need to deliberate one way or the other on the whole thing, and if there's any other conditions we wanted to add or whatever, we'll do it at that time.
I'm sure it's in here, but I'll confess I didn't get to that point. So just to understand, the building you would add, and then the fence around it, and then you would also be putting a fence on either side of the cableway. So the fence, the building, like Verizon leases the land, but they own the fence, they own the building,
That's right.
they maintain the fence, they maintain the building.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas right now, I don't know who owns, it's probably all, what is that, N-Star out there that owns what's there right now?
Yeah.
As far as the existing fence, the existing vegetation, that's
That's
all under.
Star's property, and they own that in fee.
Yeah, that,
I think just one other question, just whether, who actually owns the pole? Is it gonna be N-Star or Verizon? Maybe down the road, maybe we can find out that answer.
Well, it's Verizon Wireless has installed pole. The only reason I raised that as an issue, I'm working on another site where the pole was, the power mount was left in there. And I don't know under what circumstances that was, but the lease is currently drafted. I'm trying to remember. I think that is listed as one of the items that would be Verizon Wireless's property.
So we certainly will maintain the pole in case there's some wrong with it.
Yeah, I guess it's just that earlier you said you think it should or should be, or I don't know, it
It's,
just.
I mean, that's it's like, I mean, we'll definitely maintain it, but as far as the actual ownership, like, I mean, who owns that pole? I mean, it's considered part of the structure or not? I mean, that's some, and we can get that answer to you.
I would think you'd want that answer.
Yeah,
But
because,
ultimately, we'll be responsible for that pole, and nobody will get on that structure without Eversource permission. So, I mean, that's.
I guess my thing is that if Verizon owns it, that's better, because you're not gonna put somebody else on there. If it's a greedy landlord who owns that pole, and somebody wants to, even though it's maxed out, but if they wanna put a little leg out the side that, I don't know, even though it might be smaller, one thing or another, oh, that's more rent. you know,
Like,
Well, we
I
can.
don't know if you heard me ask him earlier, Mike, that's not necessarily structural, it's more like a conduit for everything that's running up on
I
the
mean,
pole. It's not
structurally,
necessarily
it's
a-
possible to extend it, right? I don't know.
Yeah, this is gonna be designed pretty much to the maximum capacity for what they're looking to do. The clearances between the actual antennas, it won't really work, for anyone else. There's just not enough room to go in between them. And structurally, like even the alternate 4 that we showed, down in the hole, like going up 20 feet, it wouldn't, the existing structure
Right.
just
Yeah.
wouldn't hold, you know?
but again, like if somebody came along and said, could you put a spire? Could you put a spire on the top of that? Maybe it's only 5 feet, maybe it's only 10 feet.
I mean, a grounding rod or something like that could probably be put on it, and it wouldn't fail the structural. And I think, you know, with
I guess that's where I'm seeing like, I'm not seeing like a lot of big stuff, but I'm seeing like little tack-ons here and there that, again, greedy landlord, who needs what? I got a conduit or pole, call it whatever you want to call it, but I've got a site, and if it doesn't belong directly to Verizon, what are we open to?
George, what I've seen in the past is that basically, if the carrier installs it, even though it's through a lease, the conduits in the ground, you know, say they vacate the site, Eversource says, get all of it out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they have an alternate vendor for, like, say, telephone, so they're running Verizon landline, they wanna go to Comcast, the conduits are still owned by the carrier. And so they have the right to be able to use that resource for any other, you know, provider for telephone service to that property through that conduit. What Danny was saying about vacating a site, it may be construction-wise, if someone were to leave, in the case of like, say, a Metro PCS that decoms the site, they may, through some kind of negotiation, feed over what's left of the power mount that's in the structure for an asset for, you know, Eversource to utilize and remarket. But I believe that we would, Verizon would maintain rights to that, and like you said, competition-wise, would
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
you're
just
not gonna
keep
let
the
somebody else
consensus.
move into your, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ownership issue probably doesn't matter, because they're either gonna own it, or they're gonna have it under such a long-term lease that they fully control it. You know, it's not like, they're not just renting
What I was
top
gonna
10
go with
feet.
pole, yeah, would require both our and Eversource approval.
You would either own the pole, or you would have total
We can
control
actually,
of it
on a
under
legal
a
language, we can
long-term
get back to
lease,
you,
which
but-
is the same
Yeah.
as like a ground lease on a shopping center or something.
Yeah.
So the only time it ever would revert to the owner of the top, of the power company would be if Verizon decided to leave
Yeah.
and not use it anymore, and then they might leave it behind, I suppose, and then somebody else could put different antennas up on the top, but it wouldn't change the pole at all. That's my understanding.
No, and I think that's the correct characterization.
I think you'd want Verizon to, if they were to put the pole there, I would think that you'd want them, and I'm not sure whether the town does this or not, but whether, if Verizon owned it, at least the town would be able to collect personal property taxes.
I think they would even if it was leased. If you
Yeah,
get,
but you wanna know who has
Who
the
to send the
ownership.
bill to.
Right, exactly.
yeah, well, yes. But I think that in either case, the bill would go to Verizon because they either would own it or they would be leasing it. So they would be the one responsible
Okay.
to pay it anyway. So that's why I'm saying, I don't see the ownership issue as a big deal. It's a piece of information I'm sure you can give us, I guess, but I don't see that it should affect, you know, our decision. They're gonna have full responsibility for maintenance, and they're gonna have full control of it. So the idea of another company coming in and trying to latch on to it, I think, is probably not gonna happen. unless Verizon decides to leave. And if that's the case, then their antennas would be gone, and anybody else that wanted to go in there would simply put the antennas in the same place. Is that, am I
No, I think that's a
characterizing it
very good
correctly?
characterization.
I mean,
Yeah, no,
He was just saying, and then whoever came in, if they wanted to take that over, they'd be
That-
back in front of the board.
they'd have to come back here and tell us what they wanted to put up there.
Right.
I don't see the ownership issue as a point that we need to keep the hearing open for, personally, anyway.
I agree.
Is there anything else we do want from them, though? Is there anything else, everybody satisfied that we've asked the questions, we've got the submittals, we have the information, and then we can let town council read it, and give us an opinion on that piece of it. And at that point, we get together and deliberate.
I think one of the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Tolson, I'm the abutter.
Okay, please, you have the floor.
I know they, well, they're gonna put the tower in, that really bothers us, but they're also gonna have that other structure too. We don't even know where that's going. They say they're gonna, put a stockade fence around it.
Well,
I don't know what a stockade fence looks like.
It's gonna be yeah, I do. And they're going to put a row of trees between the fence and your property.
But where's that structure gonna go from how far from the property line is that gonna be? We haven't received nothing from this people.
It's 28 feet, I think,
26 feet.
26 feet on the
to
property
the
line?
building, I think, and
No,
then I don't know to the fence.
property line. Oh, to the building, yeah.
Yeah, 26 feet to the building, I don't know
Right.
what,
Just small scale, this is home. It's a building, it's really mine, it's a house.
The arborvitae's, did Eversource say that you could plant arborvitae's? Because they told me I couldn't plant them.
Yeah.
Who's gonna maintain that?
They told us if we planted them, they would take them out.
Well, we're a tenant of theirs, so we have a relationship with them. We did speak to them. Anything that we plant, we're responsible for maintaining.
Yeah, Verizon would be responsible for the plantings, the buildings, the fences, everything else, because that's theirs. And I didn't mean to cut you off or anything. Are there any other pieces of information that you'd?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have any understanding on what the building actually looks like. I don't know if you have photographs. Those were two things. We didn't know exactly where it is and what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
I don't know how to put my hand on it, but maybe.
You might have something there for us, Wayne.
Actually, you're not gonna see the building with the fence and the shrubbery anyway, because the fence is 8 feet tall. So you're not,
You're
gonna
really
see the
only
building.
gonna see the fence.
Yeah.
mostly, the building.
Until the growth gets big enough to shield the fence,
How
obviously.
big is the building structure gonna be?
How tall?
How tall?
it's about 10 feet.
The addition of the fence along the,
So that's not.
Raceway.
yeah. That wasn't there the last time, was it?
No, we asked for that.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I suggested they elevated our fence at the
In case anybody
people
get in
were
there, they
waiting.
wouldn't be able to climb all over it and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess protecting it is good. I mean, I guess
Well, keeping kids off of it.
keeping kids off of it, but I don't know if there could be some other, I think that's just a lot of stockade. That. Could probably overthinking it, but.
I said, my first thought was just to elevate it, but I don't know what's going across there, or what they're tying into on either end, if there's a reason to come across at that height. I just thought it would be a good idea.
It was
to
pretty low.
Protect
It
it
was-
somehow. Originally,
yeah.
I think he said like 6 feet originally, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I said, I just thought they'd wanna
understood.
get it, get a little more protection for it. People do roam down there occasionally, obviously.
Yep.
Can that building be moved to the other side of the stanchions? So we don't have to look at it? There's plenty of room right there.
So we weren't able to do that because of the length of the cable runs and also landlord requirements. At the previous meeting, we discussed the requirement of Eversource to locate it within the footprint of the stanchion so they can service the power lines. And I think there's also technical reasons that Dan can speak to as to the length of the cables, and you can't have the cables running too long.
Yeah, that's essentially it. The radios
The
are
law.
what's stored in that shelter, needs to be as closest to the antenna as possible.
Yeah, but it's gonna be, you're gonna be on the other side of the stanchion.
So you're saying put it on
On
the south
closest.
side?
I think he's saying making a
Closer to the-
90-degree
on that side.
swing.
On this
That-
side, right here.
Yeah, probably gonna-
I say 180.
Service area.
I think it's too close to the
There's not room,
road.
there's not enough room.
Oh, putting
Yes.
it back straight towards the road?
Yeah, I don't think there's enough room
There's
there.
not enough room.
There's a lot of room there. If it's as big as this building is, it's gonna be. Plenty of room to put that building there.
Can you show us where you would like to put the building?
Hmm?
Would you be able to show us where you'd like?
Down by the road, right?
180 degrees is what he's saying.
Proposed right here. What about right here?
That's Metro PCS's equipment. There's already radio equipment in this. There's already a wireless facility installed here,
Yes.
and that's Metro PCS's equipment. That doesn't use the tower.
And so, I don't understand why you can't put the building right here. The maintenance building, right?
Yes, as I recall this from our discussions, we were looking at various locations because we wanted to be mindful and keep it as far away from residences and property lines as possible. But as I indicated, Eversource requires it to be within the footprint of the transmission structure, because when they service the wires, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, if they
You have to be under the power
service
lines,
the
not between.
wires, they need to go to the sides of them. They can't have something on either side.
Basically, also it has to be underneath the power.
And you also have Metro PCS's equipment right there as well, which was already attached and
Could go on
walking
the
that
other side of it,
tower
no?
underneath it. You know how the cables would run. We did spend a lot of time looking at this, trying to come up with the best possible design that would be least impactful, so that's why we proposed all the measures we have to both screen and mitigate the noise from
So
radio.
this is their property, like it would be over here more centralized. in that property.
I think it's, because they want it, it needs to be, they have to be under the high power line. They'd rather have it under them than off to the side, because when they need,
There's another tower here, right? They can't put it more here?
that's where they'd want to be parked with equipment to service both
Well, you know,
towers.
that Eversource has a big project coming in, they're gonna put another line through. You do
They are?
know that, right?
No.
Well, you don't know that. There's a huge project that comes from Sharon, and it's ending
It's
at the
gonna end here.
substation.
What are they gonna put another line on the existing towers? you
Yeah,
mean?
on my resident side of that structure. That's why they came in and cleared everything out. And that building's gonna be right, it's gonna go right over that building.
Well, it's already gone, there's already lines going over that, though, yeah. Yeah. But that's how they want it, and they want the lines over the
That's the
building.
first time I've seen this, and they have no respect to be notifying us about what we're doing.
Well, we did have it, noticed as a public hearing, and the information has been at the clerk's office.
But I know, this is the first time we saw anything of this.
I think that was, well, I don't know if that was at the clerk's office or not.
Not you guys.
Do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask that you'd want a response on before we consider closing the public hearing? Any comments on the proposed, the way they're proposing the trees, anything like that? I had an idea that the possibility would be to put the trees on your property if you wanted them. And that way you would have control over them in the future, so that no one, 5 years from now, they can't come in and decide they wanna cut them all down again.
Well, like I say, NSTARS told us we couldn't plant all of you guys.
On your own property?
Right.
Right? They told us if we did, they'd come in and take them off.
They can't touch your property.
Well-
You can't plant anything on their
They've
property.
already done
Right away, in the right away
There's an
though,
easement.
They have an
Are they
easement.
is it in the right of way?
or the easement, whatever you wanna call it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that would be a possibility, though. I mean, if they got permission to put them there, they might be able to get permission to move them onto your land. I'm just throwing this out
No,
as a
I
possibility.
understand.
I don't know for sure that could happen, but
I mean, I would like something 15 feet high over my property line.
but on your land, you'd prefer it. That way, it could be done that way. Do you think, is that something that you could look into?
Maybe.
Well, I think we had indicated at the last meeting that if that would be helpful, we would be willing to put some plantings on the abutted property.
I mean, we could have both. You could leave these where they are and then put another row of them along your property line. It wouldn't be quite the old growth that was there before.
Right. And Eversource isn't gonna let that happen, I mean, the old growth happen. It needed to be trimmed down, I understand.
Yeah, right. But still, it did provide some benefit to you.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe 2 rows of trees would give you something better. There's noise mitigation in that, there's visual mitigation in that. You'd also have personal control, hopefully, over the trees on your own land.
We would like something in writing if they were gonna propose that.
So maybe we don't
Once
close the
these
public
things go
hearing.
up and they disappear.
Maybe we don't do that, because
Continue?
well, I think we'd probably have to. If they were gonna add trees to the plan, they'd have to revise the plan.
Well, those aren't on the plan. Those technically wouldn't be on the plan, they're on private property. Would it be?
Depends if we want them there or not.
I don't know. I'm
But if
just,
it's part of the permit, if we make it I mean, we can just make it, we could still close and make it a condition.
Right.
Yeah, so the condition could be that, if they
well,
can,
mutual agreement.
yeah, well, if they can get, they still can't make the decision.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But if they could get, the permission to do that, and I think we could write the condition such that,
There's a mutual agreement between the butter and Verizon, whatever to be determined between them, I guess.
yeah, in the second row on their land, on their property.
I said, I mean, we don't wanna tell them where or what or whatever, but if the condition in it said to work with them.
I mean, if,
Well, we do have a 5 easement across.
So Lane, but if we do put this out to town council, would we need to open the public meeting to discuss
No.
the findings of town council? The board wouldn't? Okay.
that's my understanding. We can talk to town council anytime we want them in deliberations, right?
I'm not too sure about that.
Okay.
Because what we're doing is we're considering,
It's not,
conditions.
it's not affecting information coming in, it's only
It's not affecting, the only.
our legal
right,
obligation.
We can't take information from the applicant or from the public, but internally, we can discuss and look and do whatever we want to do. Okay.
I mean, if it would be helpful, we could continue the meeting, and if town council needed some response from me, I don't know if that.
That would probably be the simplest way, to have them talk to you rather than ask them to research the thing from scratch.
Who is town council?
Mr. DeLuca.
Yeah, Dave DeLuca,
Hey, DeLuca.
who's he with? Go ahead.
That's what I was just trying to remember.
Are they on the Quincy?
Braintree, Crown Park, Crown Colony?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Quincy,
Yes,
that's
five-
Quincy.
500 pound,
Yeah, Crown Colony, yeah.
I think that's it right there.
500 or 800, one of
Across
those.
the street from the Patriot Legend.
Yeah.
If that helps.
If you need contact information, you could contact
Yeah.
Ines, and she could get you phone numbers or whatever you need.
Okay.
Well, we could leave the hearing open if we wanted to. If town council had other questions and we're asking them to provide anything else, then we would have to reopen if that's the case. So maybe we should leave it open until town council looks at it. At that point, if there's nothing else to do, then we could just reopen and close fairly quickly, wouldn't we?
Chris,
Well,
what do you guys think?
I think we're wasting time, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion.
okay, well, question I have is, for the other sites that were studied, did you do one of those same coverage maps?
Yes, yes, we looked at each one.
Yeah, we did propagation studies for each one of the sites. I can go through if you guys have questions, I can give you a summary on each of them.
I just, if we have, I would just like to see them, so we could understand,
I think they included.
in other words,
We didn't include them.
Okay.
you know, this is what this tower gets us, as opposed to what that would, just so we could see, you know, how big of a gap are we talking about? I know it's not as, this is the preferred site, but how far are we off?
Okay, well, we can ask for that.
We already have them.
Yeah, that's what I mean, we can ask to get, yeah. If they're here tonight, that'd be great. I think we could probably still close with them, with those coming in. Maybe not.
We can leave it open, it's not a
Yeah, yeah.
huge thing,
Yeah, yeah.
really, you know,
Yeah.
just in case.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have a couple copies of each.
Okay.
N-Star Tower 45, which is alternate 1, that's the site that has wetland issues.
Yep.
That one, the majority of the loss is to the north. It does maintain a lot of the general footprint within Holbrook itself, although the loss,
Oh, yeah, 10 feet low, huh? Yeah.
yeah, so that particular site, it's 10 foot lower, the tower height, it's at 2 foot lower in elevation, so we do lose about 12 feet of center line. Ultimately, maintains a lot of the coverage footprint, and after further investigation, that's when we discovered the wetland issues on
But
that
that's the
site.
wetland, one then. I mean, if that wasn't for the wetlands, that would probably be a,
That is a site that when we discussed it internally, that's why we had to investigate to see if it was even viable
Yep.
before sending it to your board. So the next one over would be the N-Star Tower 46.
So this one, that's the wetland one right there?
Correct.
yes.
Yep. That one?
Yep. So then Tower 46 is, we're starting to drop elevation significantly. It's 18 feet lower than the proposed and shifted a quarter mile west. So we start to shift the coverage footprint to the west and we open up some gaps, again, to the north around Canavan Drive. And we open up gaps in the residential neighborhoods within Braintree, just east of the highway, or sorry, State Highway 37.
Yeah.
And we start to cover less of the town forest, and again, there's the capacity issue. It's not gonna, as we start shifting closer to the existing sites, we're gonna.
So you wouldn't wanna go west in Holbrook? You'd wanna go east toward Braintree to cover.
Well, Braintree's north, right?
Or be north,
Yeah.
northeast, yeah.
Well, we really can't go northeast, because then we drop onto the other side of a ridge, and there'd be no hope of really covering Holbrook. It would end up being a town forest site, away from the usage.
This site does, actually does give a little better coverage in Holbrook, doesn't it? But mostly in areas that there's nobody there. Doesn't even hardly help Roseway much.
Again, an 18-foot drop in elevation is
Yeah.
pretty significant. So you'd essentially need to maintain the same coverage footprint as the proposed, you need to go even 20 feet higher than that. So you're looking at a 30-foot power mount extension. Not really feasible from a construction point. And that site is still somewhat visible to the residents on Damon Ave.
It is, and it would.
It's, as you come in,
Yep.
Yeah, Ron,
It's
when you first
vis-
come in
it's
off
very
the street, you
visible
can
from
see
the-
that.
it's right there, it's a couple feet away from a nice lawn
Yeah.
that somebody clearly uses
Yeah.
as well. And then Tower 40, N-Star Tower 47, that's alternate number 3 on the original plot that we showed you guys. That's at 30 feet lower in elevation, and it already has a power mount on, so it's not really feasible. And here's a coverage plot to that if you guys are interested. A lot of the coverage loss is actually throughout Holbrook in this case. We lose reliable service along Pine Street. We can't even cover Forest Road, and then again, we lose a lot to the north, and
Yeah. A lot of Pine Street.
Yep.
Can't just put a blimp up there and hang it down or anything.
You know, the tower is just a structure to mount the antennas on. If they floated in the air, we wouldn't need them.
Skyhooks.
I'll talk about blimps, so we just lost one last week, right?
I know. They drifted off and they don't know why.
I know. They basically shot it down, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, did they shoot it
They
down? I
shot
heard,
they shot holes in it so it would come
so it
down.
would come down,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Crazy.
And if this helps, it's a terrain map, a
Oh.
topo map. It has the location of those 3 alternate N-star structures.
Yeah.
As you can see, we're kind of at the peak right now where we are.
Yeah,
To be-
definitely, it goes down in both directions.
Absolutely. And anything to the east of the ridge, we're kind of
yeah,
preventing
yeah.
covering anything into Holbrook.
Yeah.
And you'll limit how much capacity and offload you can provide to the Holbrook, the existing Holbrook site.
Yeah.
And a summary of what we just went over is actually in the RF report. Table 1 just kind of details the key facts of each one.
That's just the elevation. You guys saw these, right?
Yeah.
Next one.
Oh, right, I remember looking at this last time, yep, it does drop.
And it goes both ways.
Yep.
You guys put in your time, huh?
Leave two of them.
Can I come with you?
We wanna leave it open then until we have town council?
If everyone feels more
Look at it.
comfortable that way, that's fine with me.
It's okay, it's okay with me. I'm not sure, I don't think we're asking them to give us anything specific at this point, right?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
So the board is going to contact town council directly and then give them my information if he has any questions?
We'll give them a copy of your amended request for waivers. All right, well, I guess there's no reason not to leave it open then. And is there anybody else, any other comments from anybody? Then I guess we want a motion to continue, and I guess we should pick
A date.
a date. Continue to, and I'm assuming we don't want to try to do it in less than a couple of weeks, so maybe give the town council a chance to look at it. So maybe something like 17th, Tuesday the 17th, maybe?
That's 2 weeks, right?
That's 2 weeks. It's 1 day short of 2 weeks, but.
What's the following week?
Works for me.
Well, the following week, you're getting into Thanksgiving.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, if we don't do it that week, you're pretty much jumping all the way into December.
Tuesday, that Tuesday works, that Wednesday would not
I
for me.
can't do Wednesday
Alright, so
either.
that kind of,
But Tuesday the 17th would work, and that's, I think that should be plenty of time for the attorneys to talk.
yeah, if you wanted to look at an alternate, the 19th, I don't know if the 19th.
I could do the 19th. I could do the 17th or the 19th. That'd be Tuesday or Thursday. You guys?
Doesn't matter to me.
Any preference on your side, Tuesday or Thursday?
No, either one.
No, let's go
November
for,
17th or November 19th.
let's go for Tuesday the 17th and move it along if we can. Okay, so I guess we need a motion to continue the public hearing until Tuesday, November 17th at 7:30.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comment on the motion to continue? All in favor?
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good
it.
evening.
And since these were given to us and these were not in the original package, these were submitted, and they should go in to,
So then,
Take some cookies with you guys.
yeah, really. They're gonna take
these are well
take a lot of them.
Where did the nice come from?
They had Party.
Good
night,
thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the last, 21st. Do these have to go in here too, or?
I mean, eventually, they're submittals, that's all.
Okay, okay.
So as long as they get eventually back into the package.
But I think that there were 2 copies, so.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, oh, the ones that.
Yeah, I was saying that for a rainy day.
Okay, so we did that. Sean's, and this needs to go to, thank you for coming in.
No, thanks,
Good
night.
Do you need those, that,
Yeah, you can have it,
okay,
okay.
thank you.
I'll keep
Thanks.
No problem.
We just need to get a copy of that to return it to Luca
Oh, yeah,
And
so
then
I'm gonna
ask-
give him the
and
map.
ask him to contact the applicant.
Just this? Or you want me to include?
Well, you
the-
can, yeah, you can,
The whole package?
you can tell him what we're doing, and he may only need this, but if you want to, you can have the whole
Oh,
thing
he
if
just
you want. But, I think the legal part of it is
School
me.
guy, yeah. The guy from school, he's tardy.
Yeah, we still got 2 more people.
Yeah. Just saying.
So, where are we at now?
55 no, the Sycamore.
Okay, so, the project at Sycamore and Plymouth,
We wanna build 6 of those towers. Go right in up there, all right. We just wanna come before you guys informally. Sean Hardy, you know, Steve DeRoche, Ponset Valley Survey, Simon Chan owns the property. It's about 50 acres at the intersection of Sycamore and Plymouth. Simon currently owns it. I know there was some issue previously, some back taxes and things are owed. Simon's entered into agreement, he's more than halfway caught up. He made a significant lump sum payment of over $100,000 towards the 220, I think, that's owed, and he's on a monthly payment plan for that, so we're working towards that issue.
okay?
This site has a power line easement running through the middle of it. You can see here some significant wetlands associated with it. These are some previous flagging that was done. We have reflagged it. That's not shown on this, but it basically matches this. This being, looking for one of the overlay districts for the 55 and over, being 50-plus acres, it would qualify roughly for 217 units. What we're showing here is more of a village-style duplex units with access roads. It's hard to see, it's a huge parcel, so.
Yeah.
But we're looking at a 40-foot wide kind of right-of-way as the main road to get in and out with little 24-foot access to each of these units. They have garage unders and 1 floor living on some, 2 floor on other, but mostly like townhouse-style duplex units is the thought. Make it more neighborhood-like as opposed to, you know, institutional if we can get away with it. There is proposed kind of a clubhouse unit down but at the beginning, both function-type facilities, meal-type facilities, things like that, with parking around it. So this represents 154 of the townhouse units and looking at roughly 20 above the clubhouse, just to, you know, maximize the footprint. Like we said, there's, with the wetlands, in addition to wetlands, this site is natural heritage, so there's, it's a habitat, so that's a permitting hurdle. There's a wetlands permitting hurdle. It's probably subject to NEPA. Deviations from what would be required under the bylaw for this, and some of it was through contact with, like, talking to the fire department, did want some turnarounds. We tried making circulation through as best we could. Some of them we have to extend and put turnarounds. The bylaw has a requirement that you're not supposed to disturb in the buffer zone, so we would have to do that for this type of layout. But again, we were trying to make it a little more village type as opposed to a couple of high-rise type buildings down at the front. Just kind of make nice amenities, walking type paths and things like that. Another challenge for this is based on the easement that runs through the property, you're only allowed 2 crossings. So they have an easement, and even these 2 crossings would be subject to be reviewed. They have the right of refusal, but in the easement, you're allowed to get over once and back again, so.
Entrance to the whole thing would be off of Sycamore?
Off of Sycamore, and a second, there's another little, the property is all of this.
Yeah.
So there will be a second small entrance just for 10 houses with a little cul-de-sac, just.
So that would be a
off of
dead
the-
end?
The dead end, yeah, with the turnaround.
And there'd just be the one in and out of the main?
Correct. So certainly there's some, we wanna kind of put this out there to see what you guys think, because
Yeah.
to permit this, it's gonna be gonna be a long design and a long permitting process. We would like to you guys are the ultimate site plan review for it, so we wanna see if you had any thoughts or opinions on kind of a layout or a general way for it to go before we.
I kinda like the idea of not having, big, one or two big structures. I like the concept of having townhouse kind of neighborhood rather than
I think the only drawback would be just emptying out onto Sycamore. That would be my, it's a lot of property emptying out onto
It's
Sycamore.
tricky down there, the way it
Yeah,
sways into the.
and you know, it's tough that you gotta go all around the world to get over and into these things you're proposing, Sean, I know it's a really tough piece of land.
It is.
It's,
There's possibility we're looking into another easement that may or may not exist down further onto Plymouth.
Okay.
That would be.
We're looking at whether that's, we're told that one exists, but we're.
But we'll go
Again, we don't know what rights we have to it.
Sure.
That would help, for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I've been down into a 55 over down in Middleborough, and there's basically, I don't even know how many units there are, but there's basically 2, and this is a much smaller project.
Yeah.
I mean, to get into Oak Point, I don't know if you guys.
I've never-
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and it would take all of that to get into, so, I mean, if people have to drive a little bit to get into their,
Oh, yeah, no,
I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah,
that's.
yeah.
But it's just so tricky down by, 139 and,
Yeah,
but I'm sure someone can figure out something.
I think if you could get out onto 139 directly, that'd be huge there, because that is a tough intersection
That
on
would be
on
real-
Sycamore Street.
Yeah.
Especially morning and afternoon. I mean, it's not impossible, but that definitely does build up. I'm right on the other end of that, come out in the morning. So it's actually backed up to there sometimes in the morning going to
Yeah.
the center.
And obviously, with the traffic, we need traffic studies and that sort of thing for Sycamore where does Sycamore, where do they come together? Where do the roads actually meet?
Sycamore.
Not on your
It's
plan,
there.
right?
Well, it is.
No,
It's
right
just
there.
Oh, it's right there?
doesn't
Yeah.
continue.
Oh, that's, okay, I see it, yeah.
So it's right by the paintball
Yeah.
place?
Yeah,
Right.
that's further.
Well, that's further down here.
For-
That's
no.
off the map.
Right.
Isn't the paintball place right?
No,
It's further down on
Yeah.
Plymouth.
It's further
Right,
down.
no,
up front.
it's not on the map, but it's not
Right,
that far
yes,
down.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's maybe a quarter, half mile down.
Yeah, it's under the power lines where it crosses Plymouth.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you extend that through, probably
right, right.
down.
Oh, that far down? Okay.
Well, it's a
probably
bit
not
of
even
a,
that far down, I bet.
it's a ways.
Yeah,
That's
because
all
this
of
is the
it.
easement.
You've got the Legion Post, and then you've got all.
Oh, you got Kevin Kane's building, he sold there, you got the pump house.
Yeah.
It's,
That's actually the potential easement is through the Commerce Park.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Is it
Yeah.
still the same concept as before, the gated community, or?
No, I don't think, is it?
This-
This is
this
different
is,
than
It's
what.
different?
We never mentioned, you said gated, I thought you were talking about
No.
different. No, it is still gated. I still put a big entrance. right
Okay.
there.
I think you were in like a year ago at this
That
point?
was a while ago,
A few months
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
A few months ago.
But there was gonna be, at that point, you were
Same time.
talking about potentially having a restaurant and and more
Oh, yeah.
more facilities.
At
I
that
think.
time,
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more like
This is totally different.
singles, I don't know.
So you're
Yeah.
thinking like a,
Yeah, this, I mean, I put together this as a
Right.
result of conversation, but I mean, the clubhouse has the potential to have some sort of facilities in it, which,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with the first floor is open function, you know,
Yeah.
type of things,
Yeah.
with the top floors being 20 residential units,
Right.
so.
But the outside amphitheater and that kind of thing, probably not.
No, at that time when we do this, we had somebody had some kind of fancy idea, and they had proposed to go to a town meeting to lift that 55. But after we did some research and then we discussed it, why make somebody hate us? So we just say whatever, whatever it works. So that's why we go by the book, and then we make everybody happy, including me too.
I don't think you were here when that
No.
stuff came in.
So this is, so right now, this is, I mean, other than, you know, the wetlands and, this is all maybe, what is that zoned right now?
It's various,
It's-
there's
yeah,
an
it's
R,
more than one.
R1, R3 comes through here, there's a R1 and a B/C that's a triangle for some of this.
So we'd have to, didn't we talk about at the time, like, we'd have to have it, well, we can't do spot zoning.
No, well, that was, I think that was before the.
The only
when
place I
they
think we
went
come
to
into an issue is the
55.
BC type thing, and these are the only units I think that may or may not be affected by that,
Uh-huh.
shy of a variance.
Yeah.
and
So everything now that's shown works with the current,
Yeah, because I
Zoning.
believe the overlay, you're allowed to do it in the R1 and the R3 for the 55 and over. Like
Yeah.
we said, the only place would be here. And the majority of that is wetland and the power lines.
See, this shows
There's a
where
few units here that may be
Yep.
affected.
oh, okay, so I see, that comes down and does a turn. I guess a turn.
Well,
was-
that was
Or I don't
a
even know if
concept
that's-
to bring out, yeah, this is
I don't
really,
know.
that's not on his plan here.
Yeah, okay.
And in fact, none of that is.
When
Yeah,
they,
that, I don't know what,
See,
I think
this
that was
was,
a previous.
that was a
Yeah.
previous,
Yeah.
and you can
Okay.
see it's significantly smaller than that.
Yeah, and this wasn't gonna be 55 and over. I think
No,
he was gonna
right.
look
Yeah.
for a change in
Right.
that.
the person who drew this and who suggested this is from New York. So he charged lots of money to come up with something like that.
See?
See?
Rudy says, I don't charge
You don't
anybody.
charge it, so everybody charges.
So he's a friend, and he is a good, effective engineer.
yeah.
Well, we agree, I think.
So this
in,
is just whether or not to get off, if you
Yeah.
guys like this overall concept, and certainly understanding there's wetlands issues, there's natural heritage issues, there's MEPR issues, and the footprint might start shrinking, and maybe
Yep.
some of these start getting taller, but this is what we'd like to do. But from you to do this would need some waivers as far as offsets to the wetlands and some of the bylaw issues, but if
Yeah.
you were okay with
Yeah.
the concept, would try to kick off.
I think the concept looks pretty good.
yeah, I just have a question for Chris. Chris, you've been down Oak Point. You think that Oak Point is similar to something like this, you think?
I think it's quite a bit bigger. I think,
Oh, Oak
Oak
Point's
Point
bigger.
is bigger.
yeah, yeah.
But do you like the way Oak Point has like, they're, like the way the houses, like the one floor in the garage, that?
Yeah, well, actually, that's kind of what they are, like duplex style detached garages. The garages are separation points, so you do have somewhat of a single, but they,
And I think that's,
there's a few of them around. There's
I
one-
like that.
yeah.
There's another one right off of 18, there's a huge one. What's that, Abington? I think the one that's back there, I never knew it was there. There's like almost 1,200 units.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, you go off of Abington.
Woods?
No. This is, these are all like 3-story apartment units. If it's just past 123 in Abington, you go up the street a ways, you take a left, and it's a little ways down on the right, but you drive in, it's a smaller driveway, but it widens out. But you drive in there, it's huge. Some a friend of mine's father lives down there, and I never knew it was there before. It's gigantic. There's another big one off of 27 that goes right underneath Highlines, actually, you drive in, it's almost like a half-mile driveway going into the place. There's a good sized one down there, but it's, yeah, I mean, it's comparable to a few others I've seen.
I think that concept is good, you know, the one story, the garage, so people drive into their garage.
Yeah, they definitely like the garages.
Come walk right into,
Yeah.
you know, no stairs. I think that's what, that's
like that.
55 living.
That's the way it should be, yeah.
Yeah, and we also, I went to New Hampshire and different, Springfield, different area to check also 55 also. Their houses, let's say, after I discussed with some of my people, they say, let's say, not the regular bathtub. We are going to, like what we saw on TV commercial.
Oh, the walk-in tubs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
walk-in tub and do something. And we are thinking about it, let's say, today they move in at 55, they may stay there until 65 or 85. So we don't want them to have
to leave.
65, I go to a nursing home, no, you can stay there. So I have a clinic at the clubhouse, I have a little breakfast place, I have a nails, a hair salon at the club, so that they don't have to go anywhere. I even have a nurse over there at the clubhouse. So let them enjoy the rest of their life.
Yeah. I like the idea, I think it's a good idea. The only thing that I wonder about is the traffic, but I think that's something that, I mean, if you had the access off of 139, that'd be nice, but.
We may offer shuttle services too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may, so that, let's see if they get about what, 10 or 20 people, even 50 people, we have a shuttle service, take them to shopping, whatever.
Well, that way
we'll-
nice. Yeah.
We eliminate the traffic.
Yeah.
Maybe
I mean, even though there's a lot of,
traffic study might tell you.
even though there's a lot of homes here, I don't think it would be like, I don't think everyone in here is
Oh,
gonna be
no,
working still.
No, it's not gonna be like
Yeah, I think
everybody's
some of
gonna
them-
leave at
And we all-
7:30.
we all-
I say not 7 o'clock departures all out of there either.
I mean, we all know people, older people in this town, and I'm getting there, have issues with moving out of town, because nothing in town for them to move into.
Oh, I
So,
like
you know,
that.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Is there a reason why you have them like duplexes rather than just like attached townhomes to condense it a little bit, or
Windows.
more daylight? Yeah, sure, makes
It
sense.
looks like row houses, if you
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
that way. You don't want that.
Yeah,
This is
no, this is
perfect.
nice.
Yeah.
This
This way
would
everybody has an end unit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
That's-
well,
And
I
again,
like that.
other permitting agencies that might not want it to be this
Yeah,
Right.
spread out
Right.
might start making us do that, but
Mm.
we wanted to see what you guys thought, if this was an appropriate direction to head.
Now, Simon, would they have like little yards that,
Yes.
that they maintain and stuff? So, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
if
yeah.
people,
Yeah, I tried doing some dimensioning, they're proposed to be 18 feet off the roads, and I think there was 25 feet in the back between the units. And I
That's
think-
actually a good
And I think
size.
it was like 15 side to side
Just enough,
yards.
but not too much.
Pretty
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if they're not maintaining it, that's even better.
I mean, I guess, if you're talking about transitional living, that somebody might be here till, they might not want the yard, so I don't know if there's an opportunity, if it did have to become more condensed, that there could be a
Some
more
townhomes.
condensed, where people are moving into more of a,
Yep.
instead of the townhouse, or whatever that is there,
Yeah.
more like a typical apartment building, but it's good
Yeah.
because those are people who are, they need the
They don't-
nurse,
they
they
want
need the
any
amenities, they
services.
need to be closer to the amenities as opposed to, their
20,
spouse
yeah,
passes
yeah.
away,
Yeah.
they don't need the big, quote-unquote, big place anymore, but they wanna stay in the same neighborhood.
We do have 20 proposed above the clubhouse.
Okay.
As it stands.
Uh-huh.
And again, full build-out would allow like 217, this shows 174, including those 20, so.
it's gonna fluctuate when you actually start
Yeah.
talking to
Correct.
wetlands and all that.
Natural heritage is probably gonna be the biggest, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is
Where are
the
the
Aquifer
turtles?
Protection
The
District.
turtles out there?
Turtles,
I
salamanders,
don't know
they
if
got
it's
it all down
turtles or
there.
salamanders or what it is yet, and the other thing, the wetlands as they're associated with, they go over the town of Weymouth's water supply, so
yep.
there's some permitting hurdles here.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But we didn't wanna start
Yeah.
trying
Spending
to
money.
get through some of that before you guys
Yeah.
said, no way, or,
Yeah.
yeah, that's okay.
I think we're
I
all
think it looks
saying the same
interesting,
thing.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're all saying it
Yeah.
looks pretty good.
Okay,
Something we need.
The devil will be in the details, but
Right.
Yeah.
I think the concept is a good one.
okay.
Right off the bat, we're probably gonna have to start off with a real good traffic engineer to take a look at the entrance.
Yeah, I think that's gonna, I'd say that,
I think we're planning on doing that anyways,
Yeah.
to be on the safe side,
yeah,
so.
that I think, and then, and try to track down that other entrance. If you have another entrance,
Yeah.
that would help
Yeah.
a lot.
The entrance that you're talking about is right at the NTV building. The NTV
Right.
coming right there.
Yeah.
The first thing that the former owner showed me is that egress. He said, this is the road, so we walked out and we walked through and we walked into that power line right there.
Yeah,
So that is that.
so I think it could, you know, that it could work, there was, doesn't he have a paper plan on, that we approved at one point?
Mr. Bucieri?
I know this, the Holbrook Commerce Park,
Yeah.
Yeah.
one of your conditions, I think, mandated an easement for some of
Right,
this. The
yeah.
only issue is whether the power lines
Yeah.
allow that same.
Okay, that was the question.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
different, that's what I assumed. Then we have two easements in my property, but the one that we are talking about from MTV there is not in my property, but we get the easement from the town. That's one, Richie
That's the
said that.
Holbrook Commerce Park.
Yeah.
That was a
We're working on
five
some
lot.
of those details.
That would be, I mean, I think that would fix the traffic issue, I think.
It'd also slow down the traffic on 139. Not that I'm into lights, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, it really would.
Yeah, that, yeah, I think conceptually, I like it,
I like it.
yeah. Getting a lot of
I like
naughty
it too.
heads.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, have a good night.
Susan,
Hey, how you doing?
Stephen, I guess you're up.
Nope.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Yeah. You can wait for you there.
Oh, yeah?
Stephen Devine, KFP Architects. Thank you for seeing us.
Thank you for coming in.
So I guess it was a couple, 3 weeks ago, we came before you, and you gave us a lot of good feedback on this parcel up at 175 North Franklin.
Yeah.
And our charge from you was to, well, you asked us if we could come back at your next meeting, so here we are. So we kind of took your ideas and reconfigured this a little bit. I think a little bit more along the lines that you were thinking. So with that as an introduction, I'll let my friend here, Stan Benulis, walk you through it a little bit, since he's the author of it.
Okay.
Okay, well, I was taking notes and I remember you guys gave us 4 recommendations that were pretty strong. And I'll just write them off and get back to where. The first recommendation you made was to decrease the height from 5 stories to 4 stories. The next recommendation you made from our previous scheme was to lower the garage by half a foot. I mean, half of the
Yeah,
length of the floor.
half a story, yep.
Yeah, 4 to 5 feet, we've done that. And then you suggested maybe making the footprint longer to make up the units. We originally had, came in with 45 units. This plan has a completely configured building with 42 units. The other comments that you guys made for us was to add a small amount of retail to achieve a mixed use, because we didn't have any office or retail in there at all at the beginning. So we've added a small amount, 1,280 square feet. You know, it's not great, it's not huge, but at least it takes up some multi-use character of it. One of the difficulties we alluded to and you agreed to us was that the site is difficult because it's so narrow, it's 81 feet wide. You have to go up a hill to get to it, to the front plateau. And you also suggested to try to bring the building a little bit closer to the road. And we did, we brought it a little bit closer, but we're still fixed on the idea if you leave the parking all the way in the back, somebody has to traverse the whole 440 feet to get to an elevator, which you bring bags of groceries and you're parking in the back, you might as well take 20 minutes to get to your community. So there's a balance that we had to go through.
Yep.
So one of the first things we did when we got back from your comments was to draw a building section up and to see what would happen if we lowered the garage that's down here, lowered it halfway into the ground, 4 or 5 feet. And that would allow air to come through, so it's still technically an
Yep,
open
open.
deck.
Yep.
It's not a garage.
Yep.
So you don't have to ventilate it and do all those things. And it's somewhat open air, and that's a good idea. And then we brought the building down and added 3 stories to it above. So it's a 4-story building, 3.5 stories showing, all right? Because it's halfway into the ground. The other item, the building was set back a little bit further here and back there. So we tried to balance the parking. We have 65 parking spaces on the parcel. We got 32 in the garage, which is half the issue, and the 1/4 and a little bit more than 1/4 in the back. So we've kind of like erred to the side of making this smaller. So if we're gonna have any retail or commercial, we want at least to increase the visibility from Franklin Street. This is a little map showing that I did, showing your, you know,
The overlay.
your section and everything. We're on the perimeter of it. This parcel doesn't reach all the way back to this road, but
Right,
there's just a little bit of a parcel left. So you can see our parcel is in yellow. It's a very long, and now, like I said before, it's 81 feet wide and 444 feet long, so it's a banana, you know?
You know, you gotta wonder how these things get split up this way.
Well, people just want the minimum amount of frontage and the most amount of land.
I
It
guess.
happens all over America.
I guess it does.
I mean, you see this development pattern everywhere. I mean,
Really, yeah,
you know, we're just dealing with it now.
yeah.
So, coming up to the front, we still wanted to deal with something with a slope roof on top.
Yep.
And then something we're thinking of is either clapboard-like looking building, so it's more of the wood frame. But this might be a, you know, an AZAC material, which is not really wood, but it's meant to.
Party plank.
Party plank. That's the word I was looking for, and I remembered it. So the scheme, this is scheme, and then basically you enter up a little bit. So I'm trying to get to reach to the front of the building, and then you come down this way at a grade that this grade here is 4 feet higher than that. So to get in the building, you have to go all the way back and come out. So it's a longer travel to get to the building because you can't enter the building here on the car because we're trying to split the grade.
Yeah,
So there's no place to put a ramp here, it just eat up the whole thing.
yep.
So you gotta go in, and then this little diagram in the back is basically a fire truck, and how it
Yeah.
gets in. It gets in this way, then it backs up,
Yep,
and then it exits.
yep.
So this is a tight little site, I mean, it's got a lot of tight and interesting geometry to it, but I think we got a scheme that works pretty well. So I'll show you the plans. What we did is we increased the length of the building by 25 feet, which is the width of one bedroom unit. So you'll be able to see that on the plan.
Oh, so that got you and then with the 3.
Yeah, so we came in, last time we talked to you guys with 4 floors at 12 units for 48,
Yeah,
and this is 3 floors at 14 units. I think it fell off. We basically had this, we had 3 large 2-bedrooms facing this way, 3 and 3, and then I just inserted one bedroom. And also, we wound up making the corridor extremely long though, so I just wanted to try to do something in the middle to break that up. But the footprint is very simple. The 2 bedrooms facing north and the 1 bedrooms facing south. So you get the most exposure. So because it's such a narrow building, to get the units to work, I have an off center. I mean, generally you put the corridor in the middle. But
Yeah.
on this one, we tried to err a little bit on that.
elevators where?
The elevator is
Right
over
there?
here with the stair. There's a stair in back. So it's pretty simple. The front, as you come in through here, through the entrance, there's a pretty large elevator lobby fronting here. There's a stair out in the corner, and there's a nice lounge in the front. So it gives it a resident, you know, I mean, I fit like 6 sofas in there, so it's kind of a nice place for.
Yeah.
people
Somebody
to-
waiting for someone to come pick them
Well,
up.
also, the gentleman before us was talking about the needs for elderly in this.
Yeah.
And we think that this project would fit that mode.
Yeah.
Because this is where you come in, you socialize, and you do, you know, this is the activity room anyway, so it's more than that. And then this area is here, which would show a small sandwich shop
Mhm.
with a corner, you know, with a little stair and a little fireplace and that. The other scheme I have up here shows an office with 5 offices that would take up about 1,500 square feet. This is 900 square feet. So this scheme takes up a couple of extra parking spaces, but depending upon, you know, the tenant that we get, it'd either be a little coffee shop or an office. Maybe the coffee shop, maybe not, because of the distance. You know, I still have that distance in the front, so, but we do have a mixed-use building, so even though it's just that. And the activity, because I have to come down from a ramp in the back, I put all the electrical and mechanical and the garbage stations and the trash chutes and all that. They're hidden. They're underneath the building, so you wouldn't see them.
Right.
But all the kind of dirty mechanical stuff is way in the back.
By the ramp.
By the ramp. So you come in, you ramp down, and you got staggered parking, and like I said, half the parking spaces is in the garage, is buried.
Yep.
So that means that even if there's so many units in here, somebody's going to get a unit that's covered in the snow, and you wouldn't, you know, I mean.
Yep.
I lived in a condominium complex once where I had 2 cars in the condo complex. And I was brave enough to rent my extra space in the basement. And I put a little sign card up. Well, like 10 people said, okay, I'll rent your space for February, March, or February, November, December, January, February. And I had 10, I did it 1 year, and I got so tired of scraping. I went back and I said, I want to keep my covered
kept your own space.
So
covered space.
So I thought it was a good idea. There's just a lot of people who really want it.
Yep.
When you come in the middle of winter and you got to scrape the car and start it up, it's you know it's so covered parking is really a value, I think.
No, I agree. I've seen a building. I've seen buildings quite similar to this, actually.
So, I don't know if there's any other building with covered parking in Holbrook.
Oh, there isn't.
So I think we might be setting an agenda here that's different.
No, the one that I was thinking of.
The other thing is I just wanted to show you the quality of the units. Although the units are small, there's a good kitchen, and you have this relationship of kitchen, dining, and living room exposure, and then off to the side you have the 2 bedrooms. The 1 bedroom is the same thing. You just keep you enter into the building, you have a big window in front of you as you enter, and the kitchen, dining, and living are all connected to see the outside. That's a concept that people, a sales concept that people like. They just like to walk in the unit.
You walk in and there it is.
The kitchen's there, the dining's there, the living room's there. You see all that space, and then all the closed private space is off to the side. So it's a kind of a very simple unit. The units are pretty much repetitive. There's a lot of these and a lot of those.
You're not looking at balconies on the upper levels or anything?
You know, we would probably, if we got this into designing further, we would investigate that. We always investigate with the client, do you want balconies or not, pluses and minuses.
Sometimes we do a Juliet balcony, just put a simple railing across the French door, and it's not a sit-out.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah. I once had a condo with an 18-inch balcony. And
You could actually stand out there.
I have a 12-inch foot and an 18-inch balcony, so you can actually open the door.
You could get out there.
Get out there.
And get locked out.
The railing comes out from the edge of the thing.
Yeah.
But it's called a balcony, so I guess the developers can sell balcony.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, I mean, something like that would be applicable here.
Well,
So we try to take, you know, the ideas and concerns you gave us and just, I mean, it's your building, you know. You recommended it. This is where we headed. We followed your advice. I think we followed your advice pretty literally.
I'm just curious, what is it between the far end of the corridor and the elevator, like 150 feet?
Let's say 30, 30, 30, 30. That's 120, 160 feet from. It's 160 feet from stair to stair. It's the banana.
I know. I'm just thinking of a second elevator. That's all.
Yeah. Well,
there's a big
as
one.
architects, we'd get chewed out if we put more elevators in because they're very expensive.
Yeah.
They are, but
my grandmother's in a building. Well, she passed away last week. She's in a building over in Austin that the hallway's quite long, and that isn't an age-restricted building.
Yeah.
It's all of 100
Usually
feet.
we try to do an L and get, you know, basically take this footprint and just do an L, and then the length is longer, and then you get, and it works pretty well because you just you have a large building which, you know, is But 14 units on one floor is pretty modest. It's not a lot, it's not a
Yeah,
big-
that's not terrible.
No, it's not.
But again, the design of the building, you kinda have to have the elevator on an end, you can't really stick it in the
No,
middle.
you can't put it in the middle, because then you have like 3 stairs.
Yeah, and you also, you don't, I mean, how do you get to it?
Right, yeah.
Plunk down right in the middle of
Yeah,
your parking.
You
and
have to-
actually, if it's in the middle of the garage, what are you gonna do? Walk
Yeah,
in the middle of
lose
the
more
garage
parking,
to get
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Doesn't make much sense. So, we actually, if you wanted to take a closer look at these, I made some little copies of the colors, and you can have some and just take a look at what we're planning. I call these midget drawings, they're just like small of the, you know, I made some copies of them.
What is the setback on the north side?
I have a setback of 5 feet on the north side and 20 feet on this side. So I have a 56-foot building and an 81-foot.
But I guess I'm just wondering, by zoning, what's the required setback?
Probably 15, I'm not sure.
I think I have
Side
that.
setback.
Is that on hand stamp?
Yeah, it should be on the,
Yeah.
I have the on the table here.
I think the real issue there would be whether just the fire department would be satisfied with a narrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
The type of building,
no
though-
access on the north side, obviously.
Yeah.
Did I steal one of those, or are they all the
They're all,
same?
no, they're different, here, right
Oh.
here. No,
So
take-
there's a minimum side yard of 20, and we have 20 and 5. So, I mean, you can't really make your building any skinnier. I mean,
no.
normally,
And
we
you can't
build an
move it.
apartment building about 62 to 65 feet, perfect. This is 56 feet, which is, it's 9
Yeah, if
9
you took,
feet
if you just 10 feet
skinnier
off
than
of that, you'd
a
have.
good plan, a good building.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So I tried to err on, you know, I mean, you need 20 feet just to get a fire truck by, or,
Yeah.
so all we've got left is 5. So the issue is, that's the kind of minimums.
Yeah. And only 3.5 stories above grade.
3.5 stories
I think
above
the-
grade, yep.
I think
And,
the aerial ladder would be pretty fine with that. I mean, that.
Yeah, like I said, I accept there's, on the north side, there's 0 access, because there is another house on that lot, but
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? I don't know.
Well, no, there is no car access on the north at all.
Yeah, no, I know,
No,
it's what I'm saying.
fire.
No, I'm saying for a fire truck, there's no
Yeah.
access either on the
Well,
entire north
by,
side.
by law, you have to have, in a multi-story building, you have to have 2 accessible sides, accessible by a fire truck.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And we have 3.
yeah,
Yeah.
3.
So,
Obviously, this building would have to have suppression in it anyway, so.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's without a doubt.
Are you
yeah.
planning to sprinkle building?
You have
Of
to.
course, you
You
have
have
to be, right?
Yeah.
We actually have to sprinkle the garage too.
You have to, I thought you have to
It's
have that.
usually a dry
I
system.
think any building over 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, well, I think ours is 75.
Well, you know,
Stage 5, I think.
there's
Stage
2
five?
laws,
Okay.
because the lawmakers,
Somebody's getting their
but
exam
it
over there. and-
conforms.
Yeah, exactly.
So they would just tell you guys, hey, we could go that way, but, you know, work with
Do
us.
you
here.
really, yeah, do you really want it then?
Call up my neighbor and say, can you put the jet ski on at 7?
You don't think he's working his TV, right?
Yeah, just across the window. Probably worked that far, right?
Oh,
Just
boy.
mess with somebody, change everybody's TV.
No, it's actually too close. It's very close. It's tight sneakers. I mean, it's 3/4 of an acre. I mean, it's-
I think that probably is going to be the key. You're gonna have to get the ZBA, and if they approve that piece of it.
Well, actually, what if you don't have any room to move your building east? Because, I don't know,
You would, but then
I guess I'm just
parking
looking,
would be way away.
oh, I guess
Yeah,
I'm
the
just looking.
parking down here, you'd probably have to join the marathon to get up to the elevator.
And your commercial part would be set way back.
No, I guess what I'm looking at is,
I know, it wouldn't necessarily be.
how bad would the overlap be between that building and this new building?
Oh, if you push
See
it
what I'm
down
saying?
Well,
further
it's
back.
coming, it probably,
It's kind of right in the middle, isn't it?
well, not quite, about 40%
It's,
of the way in.
this plan is leaning towards the front a little bit.
No, it's the adjacent
You know what I'm
building,
saying?
whereabouts
Yeah, I
is
do.
that
Yeah,
line
it's
up
not the entire
with
thing,
that
it's just
building?
that
You
one
get
lot.
across
Well,
from
the
it.
adjacent building is about right here where my hand is.
But
Yeah.
it'd still be, the
You see it?
distance between the
He was just
buildings.
showing,
would be
If you look on the blow up, you can see a little bit on this.
Right here.
You can see the two
oh, okay,
things
yeah,
in
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's showing that, and that's showing the existing building dotted.
Right.
So Stan, do you think it's
Where?
worth flipping?
The existing building
Flipping
is,
east to west or north to south?
So we can avoid a variance?
Along the east-west
That's what they're
axis.
saying.
Oh, that's property?
Yeah,
Anything's.
And that's what
worth
what we're trying to see
because
is.
what we're trying to do is, we're trying to come out of this with, is this workable?
Right.
So we can go
Wouldn't it
back
be
to the
much for you
broker
to
and say, yeah, you
Flip
know,
it
we
and
can.
show that relationship to that adjacent building and be like, you know, could something happen here?
I mean, it is interesting because even like this,
Yeah.
you're still gonna be pretty close to.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
still are.
You know,
Yeah.
how big wide is the driveway?
You won't get your 25,
20
you're only at
feet.
20 right now.
And
What is our,
I mean, he doesn't need,
What do we
he
require?
doesn't need.
Yeah, but you go 25 and zero.
Over
Probably
here,
isn't
over
much
here
more
he can be tight, because
Right,
it's,
yeah, because it's gonna be right here, probably, that's probably only 10 feet from the property line, maybe less.
What's
The school, the old,
in Franklin?
yeah.
You can have
Oh,
a choice
I thought you could drive around this.
of
Oh, no.
leaving it the
Oh,
way
no?
it is and going for a variance, or flipping it
Then
and
first
maybe
grade
not going for a
will
variance.
Well, see, I was there up until
That's
6th
what
grade.
I'm
So,
saying,
all right.
just trying to help you.
Okay,
It's 'cause you got a
tell me
couple
which
of
way,
years.
Yeah.
east, west, or north, south?
along the east-west axis, this way, not the long, yeah.
Push it back, push the building?
Well, first of all, you gotta draw the existing
No, okay.
medical building in, and
Yeah.
then you're gonna have, then you'll look at what's the impact, and you can determine,
I don't think they couldn't get it back far enough so that they'd be.
I mean,
No,
you put it
some
all
of
the way
them would
back
be
here and you
impacted.
wind up building a parking lot that you gotta walk into. It's, the building is so far from the street that you wouldn't even get a mixed use. You wouldn't have any commercial.
You could have an office, you could have an office.
Yeah, you could probably do an office.
Would it be crazy to approach the people in the yellow house to buy that property?
oh, to buy the property?
That would be up, see,
Yeah, why-
we don't really have a client here,
Right.
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
They're fishing for a
Would it-
developer to.
Which
Yeah, I
we're
mean, that would make a
trying-
nice parcel
That
if
would
you,
be,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
then you'd have, you know, you'd have 190 feet or something like that.
But if you wanna hand this off to somebody as of right,
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
right, so,
Other-
you know, if you show them, here's an as of right plan, and oh, here's one there, you have to go for a variance, and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. The
You know,
as
the
of right is
developer-
always better.
Yeah,
They wanna get into something with that, you know, the risk is minimized.
Sure.
Now, now what's gonna happen here, if you guys give us, you know, kind of a thumbs up, saying, geez, yeah, we could get behind this, then there's two choices, and after the last meeting, I talked to the broker, and I said, okay, because Sue says, we need an applicant. And I said, so I called the broker man, and says, we need an applicant, who's the applicant? Is the applicant the seller, the doctor, or is it gonna be the prospective buyer?
I think it's gotta be either the owner or
Someone lease.
somebody that has a legal contract with the owner.
Right. So,
Like
his
like a
response
purchase and
was,
Sale agreement or something like that.
his response was it could be the doctor, and he said that he didn't think he would have a problem finding a buyer if you guys could get behind it. So I don't know which way he's gonna go. If we get a green light, which way he'd go with
We're
it.
trying to make a project rather than having.
I think the impediment, as I'm seeing it anyway, is probably the setback, and you probably, maybe your first step needs to be with ZBA, because if they won't agree, you're dead in the
If we
water.
flip the building, then we sidestep that, right?
You could do that.
I mean, it meets the spirit of the law,
Yeah.
even though it may not be ideal.
Yeah, you'd be within probably 5 feet or less of the old school.
Yeah. So what I could do is I could go back to the broker and say, look, the way it stands is with the design we have, we'd have to seek a variance and go through the ZBA. So you gotta decide what you wanna do with that. Or we could flip the whole thing and not have to do that, but it wouldn't be ideal.
You mean flip it, you mean go west?
No,
No.
north, south, push it
Oh.
up, push it down
This
to the
goes
south
that way.
line, south
The street
line.
goes this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just slide it down, you flip it over.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
we-
alright.
we can
Look like
avoid the
that.
variance, but it's gonna be right behind his
It
building.
kinda looks like this. Right?
Shift the road from one side to the other.
Yeah. The road would go along the north, that would get you the,
That actually might help your, if I'm not mistaken, is that side of the driveway a little bit lower also?
There's a little bit of a challenge getting up in there because
Yeah.
there's a grade change.
Yeah.
So that might help.
Yeah, cause
That's the way-
I believe when you come in there, I believe that side of the driveway running down that side of the house is slightly lower than the other side, if I'm not mistaken.
That might help.
I think it might pick up a foot or even more in elevation.
Yeah.
It's not,
I think
it's not a
so.
ton, but
So
it
let me
might,
ask you that,
might even get
let me
side
ask you guys
access
a
on that
question.
side.
If we flip it, what report should I give to the broker man? That you guys could get behind it because it meets the intent?
Well, I think you'd have it by right at that point.
But I would say that you'd wanna have council take a look at our latest thing and confirm that.
Yeah.
You know, and-
But, I mean, we've never used this yet.
yeah, so, yeah, you're,
It's new to us as it is to you.
We get it.
But I think,
Oh,
it
just
sounds like you would hit
Last week, right?
everything.
Right.
But and then on the opposite side, on the residential side, you'd have to have 25 feet. How wide is the driveway?
20.
Which,
So-
I think there's something wrong with that, because.
yeah, I think
the
that
other
needs to be for
five-
two-way traffic, I don't know.
You know?
So the
You see
other
what-
5 feet you'd gain by putting the building on the property line.
If we flipped it, we're gonna meet the intent,
Yeah.
we think.
Yeah.
And that way, what I can do now is I can go to the broker and say, look, we think we meet the criteria, so here's the deal. You can proceed this way, and if the guy who comes along decides it's a better project and he wants to flip it back, he can go for the variance, but at least he's not losing out.
Right.
So that would be the way to go.
Yeah.
Sounds like it would be
make
the
a better
simplest way
project.
to go. I
Right.
mean, the other way to go would be to have the owner go for the variance now.
Right. Which they may or may not do, I don't know.
And then you'd have I guess the problem then is if they turned it down, well, you'd still have the flip model.
I mean, I think all they're really interested in is getting rid of it. So, if it's marketable as
Maximum
a
front
42
yard
unit apartment building,
Huh?
somebody's gonna come along
Front, yeah.
and buy it.
Is how much? 20 feet. Oops.
No, front yard, that's fine.
Well, but
Parking lot yard.
maximum.
Maximum.
Yeah, well, they show here.
The front
they show
yard is
the
84
hardship.
feet. The front yard is
They have
84
two
feet.
hardships.
Yeah,
Front yard's 84.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So actually, you'd have to go to,
They're showing they're showing the minimum side yard at 25 feet anyway, so that someone knows what's going on.
oh, yeah, and that's listed as, it's one of the arrows, the hardship arrows is
Yeah,
pointing towards the
all parcel.
25 feet.
Postal geometry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So someone's aware of that there.
So somebody's aware of it on your plan.
Yeah.
So that would be another variance you'd have to get.
What is that variance?
Maximum distance from the street is 25 feet.
20.
To the building?
Yeah.
20.
To the building from the front property line?
It really was intended like for, the strip buildings in the center
Right,
of town
yeah,
and
it's-
that kind of, those
This
kinds of.
parcel doesn't match.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would actually,
But I'm just pointing out
Understand.
that
Why
if it was
couldn't we
20
do that?
feet
Why
from
can't we
the
just pull it forward?
you could.
Why couldn't we just do that? I mean, the idea is to get something that's approvable, so they can try to sell it and actually make it happen.
I would say my suggestion would be if you wanna show just a couple quick studies, sure, pull it forward, but then that makes your clash with the old school even more of an issue.
Correct.
Where if it's in the back, at least then that's a little bit, not as offensive. But at least then,
If
you're
you're
like,
flipping it.
here's two approaches.
What I would like to do is get something that's approvable and according to the intent of the law. Granted, the laws are made, and not everything fits the law in an ideal situation. That's why you have this process.
Yeah.
So if I could leave with something that would be approvable, then we have a project, and then what we can do is recommend to the broker that there may be a better way to do this, but you'd have to go through and make the case.
And I think probably what you'd do is if you were gonna put the driveway along the north side, you'd probably put the entrance on the,
Right.
on the north part,
Exactly.
which might actually be better. It'd be a little
Just
further
as-
away
just as
from,
John was saying
it'd be
first.
further away
Yeah.
from,
Guys.
If you pull it forward too, then you can stick the elevator in the back corner, because if you're walking from the back, all the way in the back of the parking lot, you're halfway there. If you're in the front, you're halfway there. So, I mean, it's, again, if you pulled all these numbers up, you could probably stick that building somewhere conforming.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you can.
You could,
No,
you
we
pull
can-
it tight, you pull it tight to the
We-
southern
we can-
boundary.
We can conform
You
it.
pull it to within 20 feet of the front roadway, and you can show it. Now you got a very unappealing, very unattractive project.
As of right.
We can meet
Works.
your guidelines.
But work with us, yeah, let's flip it.
If you wanna make it more appealing, more sellable, and more, user-friendly, whatever term you wanna use it, if we move it back here, if we move it over here, if we do this, we don't meet your guidelines, we can, but we don't. But it's the same project.
How would they view that?
I think they think it was sensible.
You wouldn't even have to go before them, technically.
Yeah, technically you don't have to. You're showing them you have something that you can build. So
But you
but
would
you're
go
trying to make
before-
it, you're trying to make
You
it
go before them
user-friendly.
just to say, we'd like to do this, and would you approve this?
Yeah. You're
Because it
trying,
approves the project.
you're trying to sell something that's obviously more user-friendly and more sellable.
Correct.
You know,
And
you could
and
sell it, you could sell it non-user-friendly and sellable.
Now, could they defend the decision without any kind of challenge? Is there a precedent for that?
The only one that would be able to challenge maybe would be a butter or somebody that would have a disagreement with it either way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the abutters, yeah.
But, now, you're talking about 40 units, and you say ideal is, 40 to 55 units. If you were able to get a few extra units, and you don't have all this headache, you being able to get a few extra units, wouldn't it be better just to try to purchase that other house? And then you have none of that headache.
Again, but we're not in that business.
You don't even have a client.
We don't even have a client.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you
We're not the
factor,
developer.
when you factor in the
Right.
$500,000 into the cost of how many units you can pick up, how much you're gonna drive that cost up, I mean, that's gonna be a pretty substantial.
There's a lot of moving parts here. I mean, basically what you have is,
It would be a great parcel
Yeah.
with a
basically, and maybe a developer will come along and do that. Basically, what you have here right now is a doctor who has vacated his building.
Yeah.
He's had it on the market for over a year, can't sell the darn thing. And the broker saying, hey, what could you do?
Yeah,
And, that's why we're here.
I think you could come up with a way you could shoehorn it in, meeting the setbacks. And
You try to improve upon it later.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
I mean, if
There's
you
no
was,
doubt.
if you were sitting here, I wanna put a shovel on the ground next week and do this myself, then that'd be different, but you're trying to work on.
Well, what we wanna do is wanna be able to leave and say, they could get behind it, meets the intent of the law. It's not ideal, so a developer coming in may wanna, talk to the town and see if he can move some things around a little bit, but the bottom line is, the doctor would be in a position to market this as a 42-unit apartment building or whatever, and somebody's gonna come along and buy that.
Now, obviously, this would go through public hearing and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So, I mean, another possibility here would be to get
The doctor to do it.
doctor to
Right.
submit
Are
right
you
now.
recommending that?
I don't know if I'd recommend it, but I'm just saying it as you might wanna talk to your broker, but because it would seem to me that if somebody was gonna buy it, if you had something already really approved, as opposed to just telling them
Oh, yeah.
you can get this approved. You still have to go through the public hearing process, something could come up, you could get, I don't know,
We always tell our clients, the further you take it in the process, the better off you are, because you're minimizing the risk.
Yeah, so I mean, if he took it to the point where you literally put pen to paper and came up with the design that met right now, and,
As hideous as it may be.
yeah,
And then you shift it around later.
Yeah.
Then you go through that step. I like that approach.
I said, and personally, I don't think it would be a bad idea to try to get on the ZBA's agenda and present them with the same case.
yeah, I mean, I don't see it would hurt.
I mean, I could show the site plan drawing too, I could show two site plans.
Yeah.
That's right.
And say, this one's much better.
This one complies, this one doesn't.
This is what we'd like to do, but
Yeah.
you gotta agree to.
It's selling the
I
same
think
product.
sitting with you guys, we've kind of flushed it out, which is helpful.
Yeah.
So we now know what the issues are. And
Because
if we can graphically represent that,
Yeah.
the doctor
then they'll know.
could make a
Have your
formal
modular building and just move it
ZBA
around the plan.
request and get
And your
the
mirror
ZBA
image.
to agree.
model.
that's it. Hey, with CAD, it's easy, right?
There you go, absolutely.
This is all freehand, the old-fashioned way.
Looks
The
good.
human drawing machine.
Throw it on the screen, you can
Oh, I
flip it,
like
you
to
can
do
move
it
it, you can
too.
do whatever you want with
Just
it.
one
Track
last
your
quick
parking
question.
down.
Yeah.
So your realtor, commercial realtor, will they do a quick pro forma on this for you, or do you have to wait till a developer gets engaged? to see.
You know, the problem when you mention a performer, we just left a meeting with a developer who wants to do 300-something units in Brockton. And I could do the performer in about a half an hour myself. All right, there's a lot of pieces to it, but just have that knowledge. But the problem is, once we do it, we're taking on liability, so we can't do it.
Right.
So, and the broker's in the same box.
Right.
So what we do is here's one we did for somebody else, follow that template. That's, I just gave them one on Braintree and said, follow that template for the one you're doing in Brockton. But you gotta do it.
So the doctor would do it.
In this case here, I don't know if he would do it or not.
Well, he could hire somebody to do it.
Well, no, whether he'd want to spend the money and actually do it, I think.
Yeah, but a pro forma's not.
I don't know how expensive.
I guess I'm saying that you go through that, you see what your hang-ups are, but if you don't have a pro forma, I don't know, who's gonna?
You know what? You'd be surprised how many builders don't know how to do a performer. I mean, the seat of the pants guys, I've seen them all. They're gonna spend $20 million and they don't know how to do it. It's amazing. And they've always done it that way.
Right.
You don't need it. If they wanna take that
You know
kind
what?
of risk.
The good market's always protected those guys. And then when the market goes down, those guys go out. Because they didn't have the math figured out.
I think you could shoehorn it in there and meet the requirements, but if I were on ZBA and you came and said, do you want this one or that one, I'd rather have this one. But,
I think we got our answer and you guys have been helpful.
Thank you.
I know.
It's very rare that
Send you a
these
bill.
architects get to have such a good dialogue back and forth, usually, what is it? But I appreciate the back and forth on
I
this.
think a huge help, just for future too, would be, again, even if it was just something stuck on to that plan there, would be the, at least a silhouette
Of the existing
of the
building.
existing building on either side.
yeah.
Got it.
You know,
We'll have to do it
for-
from Google because we don't have we don't have like a survey.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll figure something out. I agree.
The other thing that people might like to see would be the comparison of the height of the building next to
the adjacent,
the
Yeah,
adjacent
sure.
buildings.
Isn't the
Yep.
yellow house pretty tall?
I think it is, and
yeah, that's a 2.5 or 3 story.
and obviously
yeah.
the old
That's a big
school is
building.
fairly tall, so I don't think, I think you're going to be, might be a
Scale won't
little
be too
higher than
bad.
the yellow house, and, but, you know, I don't think you're gonna be outrageously above all the stuff around.
The 4-story, I don't think
That
would
would've
have flown
been-
by anybody, never
yeah,
mind a neighbor, I don't,
People,
that would have been a dinosaur in the middle of the,
well, it would've
Park.
gotten a lot more resistance.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely. I think scale-wise, that's not bad at all, it's actually a lot more
I like
pleasing to
it
the
better.
eye than I thought it would be,
I like it
to tell you the
better.
truth. I wasn't expecting it to, unfortunately, it changed it quite a bit. Before it definitely looked like
Oh, yeah.
a gigantic row home, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing we
You're
should
right,
do is
yeah,
we should get rid of
absolutely.
the power to sign if two of us do, the way we did before.
Okay.
She still has it.
Good.
I don't know.
Does, yeah.
So I guess
No,
what we'll do
you
is
can
we'll
still sign?
report back
Okay,
to Jay and
good.
We
see whether
voted.
the good
We
guys
did
want
vote.
to proceed.
Oh, okay.
We need an applicant.
Glad somebody remembered.
Right, it's easy.
You tell Jay that.
I will.
Thanks, man.
I
Thank you.
appreciate the dialogue.
Appreciate it. Great feedback. You gonna tease me to these cookies all night?
Have
It's
all
my
you
birthday. Can
want.
I have one?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's your birthday?
Yeah, my wife says, what time are you gonna be home? I'm like, I'm not.
All the
Happy
cookies you
birthday,
want
have a
yourself.
cookie.
Yeah, have a birthday cookie.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
put this for you.
Yeah, I'll
Put a
one of
candle
these.
in there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
White macadamia.
Yeah.
Take
for you.
Take 2, take 3.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Really
Thank you.
helpful.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Oh,
Ah.
getting up and walking
I
away.
know, I think, I'm just stretching here. I think
yeah.
we're, but I think we're pretty much there.
Got you
We're
guys.
toast.
See you later.
Okay, sure, I'm gonna.
See ya.
If somebody
Have a
can make
nice
a
night.
motion, we can.
Need an applicant.
Oh, we
Second.
Are you seconding? Okay. All in favor? All righty.